across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Good morning, this is Talk. I'm Peter Cardwell. Thank you so much for your company here this morning. I'm here right through until 1 o'clock today. There's so much to talk about, including Donald Trump saying he is definitely suing the BBC. This is after the doctored clip that changed what he was saying. Are you on his side? Do you think he should be suing the BBC? If you're paying your licence fee, that would be your money that would go to Donald Trump. Or is he actually finally standing up against the BBC when there's so much that needs to be said about their coverage, which isn't the impartial coverage that we pay for? Certainly that's what Michael Prescott's report said, the former Sunday Times political editor, the report that started all this controversy, of course, highlighting so many issues. So is Trump right to sue the BBC? That's the question we're asking this morning. 0344 499 1000. We'll speak to Chion Wara in a second, a senior Labour MP, about the problems in that party, the fact that there is chaos, it seems, rats fighting in a sack, and Wes Streeting saying he doesn't want to be leader. But more seriously than that, of course, the proposed rise in income tax will now not happen. A big U-turn from the government on that. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about the chaos in your party as well, Jeremy Corbyn's party. They have had Adnan Hussein, who is one of their MPs, leaving them. Loads to discuss. I want to make sure you get your voice on the air between now and 1 o'clock. Whatever your opinion, whatever you want to say, we're the home of free speech, we're the home of common sense. Get in touch. 0344 499 1000 is the number to call. You can text me 87222 with the word talk in your text. You can tweet me at talkTV. Follow me at Peter Cardwell. Send me a voice note, less than a minute, please. Tech Up Dave listens to them all, and we'll play out all the ones that we can. You can send me a voice note on 0344 499 1000. That's the number for WhatsApp text messages as well, and you can give me a ring on that number too. Let's get the conversation going. Let's get started here on Talk. Well, Donald Trump has spoken about his intention to sue the BBC. This is after the doctored clip that contradicted, it gave a very bad and completely inaccurate showing of what he had said on the 6th of January 2021. Let's see what he has said recently on the plane, actually on Air Force One, about this in the last few hours.
What BBC did, nobody would even think a thing like that was done. They actually changed the words coming out of my mouth. Well, we'll sue them. We'll sue them for anywhere between $1 billion and $5 billion, probably sometime next week.
So you're ready to take?
Well, I think I have to do it. I mean, they've even admitted that they cheated. I mean, not that they couldn't have not done that. They cheated. They changed the words coming out of my mouth. The people of the UK are very angry about what happened, as you can imagine, because it shows the BBC is fake news. Of course, you and I knew that for a long time. But we didn't know it was this big.
Have you raised the issue with Sir Keir Starmer?
I have not, but I'll call him. I'm going to call him over the weekend. He actually put a call into me. He's very embarrassed by it.
Says Keir Starmer is very embarrassed by it. You'll notice in that clip, if you've been watching on the screen, however you're watching or listening to the programme, thank you for your company. But if you're watching on the screen, on your telly or on YouTube, you will see that we put two white flashes in there. Our very good editing team put two little white flashes in just to signify that time had passed, that Donald Trump was saying slightly different things, but nothing that contradicted what he said. Why couldn't the BBC do the same? Let's ask Chion Wara, who is the chairwoman of the Science, Innovation and Technology Committee in Parliament. She's also the Labour MP for Newcastle upon Tyne Central and West. Chi, good morning to you.
Good morning, Peter.
Donald Trump saying that he will be contacting Keir Starmer about this. How serious an issue do you think this is for trust in our national broadcaster, especially now as it's an international issue and possibly subject to international legal action?
Yes, well, Peter, you're absolutely right to say it is an important issue for trust in the BBC. And the BBC made a mistake. They admitted that. They shouldn't have done that. They need to go further, actually, and they need to put their house in order when it comes to editorial standards and making sure that this kind of misrepresentation, doesn't happen again. But I would say that the idea of Donald Trump suing the BBC after the BBC has admitted making a mistake, for misrepresentation. Perhaps the BBC should countersue on behalf of the British culture for all Donald Trump's misrepresentation of our great cities like London and Birmingham, or perhaps it should sue on behalf of our health for Donald Trump's misrepresentation of bleach as a COVID cure. Donald Trump puts himself forward as a champion of free speech. This was a mistake that the BBC made, but the idea that he should be taking money out of the pockets of license fee payers when the BBC has apologized is, I think, absolutely ridiculous, and not one penny of British license fee payers' money should go to Donald Trump unless a British court orders that to happen. Now, of course, it's going to be an issue. It's going to be in the headlines. The BBC may be forced to pay lawyers. Will be forced to pay lawyers to defend any. So we're going to be paying, but I don't think we should be paying President Trump, given that the impact on his actual reputation is also minimal.
I have a couple of aspects of that answer to ask you about. One, I suppose, is how you think he's misrepresented London and Birmingham.
Some of the things he said about London and the mayor there, Sadiq Khan. Just then when he was saying that the BBC altered the words in his mouth. The BBC did not alter the words in his mouth. The BBC cut them together in a way
they altered the meaning of what he was saying. I mean,
yes,
essentially he's right, isn't he?
But they didn't alter the words in his mouth. So we're talking about being precise and being accurate, which I think we all.
But he would say he's reacting to them being totally inaccurate, and if they have misrepresented him, as you say, doesn't he have the right to legal redress if he chooses?
He had an apology, and in terms of the I'm not a lawyer, but the panorama wasn't even shown in Florida. But also, more importantly, Donald Trump, does not accurately represent everybody he's speaking to and for when he speaks. I mean, that's clearly obvious.
I mean, you could make that criticism of a lot of politicians, Chi, could you not? I mean, the BBC is meant to be fair, impartial and accurate, and we pay a fee to them in order to ensure that. That's part of the Royal Charter.
That's why it's right for them to apologise, and that's why I think the most important point is the trust between the British people, my constituents, and the BBC. And you're right to say that this has been damaging for that, and the BBC needs to take steps to show my constituents that it does represent all voices and it does represent their views as well. But the BBC is not accountable to Donald Trump, and the BBC is accountable to the British people, and that's in President Trump's attacks on the BBC, and President Trump's attacks often on British culture and British values do not mean for me that it's absolutely that this is a frivolous lawsuit which may cost the BBC.
It's not on a frivolous issue though. It's on a major issue of trust.
For the British people, having trust in the BBC is a major issue, and that is where the BBC needs to be held accountable and should be held accountable to the British people, and I will be fighting to make sure that happens.
Okay. In terms of damaging trust, surely trust has been damaged in the government, in your party. I say in the Labour Party because we're talking about your party a little bit later on, but in the Labour Party, which is of course the party you're a member of, is probably the better way to put it. This week, given how the huge U-turn on income tax, to say nothing of the problems with the attempted coup or not attempted coup or all the briefing. I mean, it's pretty unedifying, is it not?
Yeah, it hasn't been a good week in terms of the sort of speculation about. I mean, what really sort of gets me, if you like, is that what matters is not what's going on inside the Labour Party. What matters is what we're delivering for British people across the country, and particularly for people in Newcastle in the northeast. And I know that wages in the first 10 months of a Labour government have gone up more than they've gone up in the 10 years of a Conservative government. as
a lot of people without jobs, though. I mean, the unemployment figures are pretty shameful.
More people in jobs, but you're right. There needs to be. That's why it's so frustrating. All the speculation and the stories this week, because there's a real job of work to be done.
Well, what do you do, Chi? What do you do? What do you do as a senior backbencher? You're the chairwoman of a committee. You've been an MP since 2010. You know, they should be taking you seriously, and I hope they do. What do you say? Do you go to Downing Street and say, look, I've been an MP for 15 years here. Can you just sort this stuff out? Can you just organise yourselves and communicate properly and stop these briefings? I mean, what do you actually do to the high command of the party?
The message is very clearly getting through, and you've heard that all week. You know, we need to focus on delivering for the British people, and indeed, the Prime Minister said that. This kind of speculation is not doing us.
But it's his people who are doing it. It's his people who are putting it in the public domain.
Well, the Prime Minister said that nobody in his number 10.
I mean that's just not true.
Well, we've got a budget coming up. We've got to get on with delivering the additional NHS appointments, delivering the childcare and the things that make a difference to my constituents. And you're right, that kind of speculation does not help. And it also says to my constituents that we're talking about us and not about them. And so let's stop doing that. Let's focus on what we're delivering for the British people and making it work and getting some growth in the economy, getting some jobs, getting some industry coming back. You know, that's what we should be focusing on. And anyone who is thinking of their own job rather than the jobs of the British people, you know, they need to stop and focus on what matters.
Shabana Mahmood, the Home Secretary, has said that migrants granted asylum will no longer automatically get a permanent right to stay in the UK. That's what she's going to be talking about over the weekend, over the next few days. Is that the right policy, Chi?
Well, you know, Peter, I'm going to wait, as we talk about speculation, I am going to wait until she makes the announcement on Monday and with the details of what is actually being proposed. I know what she's trying to do and I know what her concerns are, and the concerns of, British people, the fact that we've got, the fact that the Tories lost control of our borders, that we've got so many illegal crossings, we've got people dying in the Channel, we've got chaos of our borders, and also we've got more asylum applications in the UK, or those are rising, whereas other parts of Europe, they're going down. So I do understand and I do agree that we need to take measures in order to reduce that. I mean, these sort of asylum seekers coming with tales of five-star hotels and hundreds of pounds of, of funding, which just does not happen. It does not happen.
There are some asylum seekers in five-star hotels. That is a fact.
We've talked about they were five-star hotels, but the rooms are divided in two. They're not being treated as five-star guests, and they're getting like
it's still a life that many people would like and don't have.
And the Conservatives opened 400 of these hotels. This is the Conservative. This is a Tories.
But Labour won't close the Bell Hotel. But that Labour won't close the Bell Hotel, for example. They won't even close one hotel. Never mind the 200 that are there that they say they will close by the end of the Parliament. 200
hotels have already been closed since the peak, and we have to have an approach which deals with the problem. It also deals with one of my concerns here is that the Conservatives cut the number of caseworkers by I think 70%. We need to get people's cases processed more quickly so they're not in hotels and so that they get the right outcome, and then we can decide what needs to happen to them appropriately. I do wonder that if people do not have a right to stay here, I mean, obviously, when what happened with Ukraine, and if we have peace in Ukraine, many of those, we know that many of the Ukrainian asylum seekers will seek to go back. But if people don't feel they have a long-term role in this country or place in this country, then that might be a problem when it comes to integration and assimilation.
Okay.
So that's why I'm really keen to see the details of what Shabana is proposing.
Just before you go, talking about chaos in political parties, your party seems to be falling apart, not just your party, Labour, but the party called your party. Adnan Hussein, the independent MP, pro-Gaza MP, leaving. Do you have any sympathy?
Well, listen, the Labour Party is not falling apart. Your party, I think it shows very well why Jeremy Corbyn, very nice man in many ways, was not suited to lead a party. And it also shows that you need to have organisation and you need to have self-discipline. I have no idea what's going on inside your party. It does look like almost a textbook mess from the outside. and they're squandering the sort of they're squandering whatever confidence people had in them. So it's a total mess. But that's why you need parties with organisation, with discipline, in where people come together in the interests of the country and not in their own.
Final question, Chi. Do you fear Reform UK more, or do you fear your party more?
So that's a great question. So for Newcastle, my focus is Newcastle, and for the country. I fear the impact that the policies that a reform government and a reform local council in Newcastle would have more, because we've seen how they haven't got any funding plans, they haven't got any economic plans, and so the plans that they do have, would destroy our economy across the country. So I fear the impact of reform more.
Okay. Chi, thank you. That's Chi Anwara there, who is the chairwoman of the Science, Innovation and Technology Committee in Parliament, senior backbencher for Labour, joining us this morning. What do you think of what she's had to say? 0344 499 1000. Elliot's in Bushy. He's rung that number and is our first caller of the day here on Talk. Elliot, you're very welcome to the programme. What would you like to say?
Well, I think I need to take a Valium to calm down after listening to your guest, if that's what you call her. I don't know. I think we're all going crazy. To say the BBC made a mistake is a complete and utter nonsense. It's rubbish. They intentionally did this. Why do I say it? Because not only did they do it on Panorama, they did the same thing to Trump some years ago. I believe, allegedly, I saw on Newsnight.
On Newsnight, you're right. No, they made almost exactly the same mistake on Newsnight. Well, botched a doctored clip. Not a mistake, a doctored clip, as you correctly say, Elliot, on Newsnight as well. That was a couple of years ago, yeah.
And if you look at the BBC, to listen to people like John Simpson and Robinson, the mind boggles. They live in a complete self-denial, delusional world. The BBC has become a horrible organisation run by people who hate this country. And I mean that sincerely. Everyone I speak to says the same. For Tim Davie to get up and say, I support this sort of journalism. Oh, really? Oh, really, Tim? So you support BBC Arabic saying Jews are devils, do you? Is that what he supports? He supports the litany of nonsense that went on with the Cliff Richard thing, the Rolf Harris thing, the Jimmy Savile thing. And what about that thing that isn't talked about? There were some Jewish friends of mine, some kids in a bus 2 years ago in London. Do you recall the event? Stones were being thrown. I believe it was at the Jewish festival of Hanukkah.
We covered it on this. We covered it on this program, Elliot.
Well, then you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And he wants to tell me, Tim Davie wants to stand up with his 500 or 600 or 700 grand a year, allegedly, of what he earns and the payout he'll get, etc., and say he supports that. It is a disgrace. And the people of this country know it, but people are frightened to say it. Well, I'm saying it, and if I get shot for it, I get shot for it. It's a fact, Peter. It's a fact.
So Trump. So in your view, Elliot, then, is Trump right to sue them?
In my opinion, I never thought I'd say it, but yes, he is. The whole organisation should be got rid of. And for your guest to say he's taking our money, terribly sorry, my dear. What do you think we've been paying for the past 25, 30 years to listen to this distorted rubbish? And of course, if you say that, you're right-wing, you're a fascist. It's just sensible balance, and there's no balance anymore in this country, and particularly with the BBC. My friends call the BBC not the British Broadcasting Corporation, they call it the Bent Broadcasting Corporation, and it's a terrible stain on this once great country of ours. We are a great country, we're a country of liberty and freedom and diversity, and very welcoming. But they hate this country, they hate our history, and they distort it. It's a crime. And in my view, it's actually treasonable. That's what these people are, and they're not called to account. They're going to stay in the job until someone comes, Peter. But you know what? That's another year. And as I say, who knows what the payoff will be?
Yeah.
In other words, they get paid out. It's a disgrace.
Well,
It's a disgrace.
We'll keep an eye on all of that. And Elliot, clearly you have a very strong opinion on this. Thank you for it. And that is the beauty of this station, because we are the home of free speech. If you have a view on the BBC or anything else we're talking about today, anything I spoke to about Chianwara, John says Chianwara has lost grip of reality, talking absolute drivel, just more Trump derangement syndrome, says John in Suffolk. Jason is a business owner and says my biggest customer base is the North East, and they're overwhelmingly good, honest, hard-working people who are what I would describe as grounded and straightforward. How they have voted for Chianwara over the last 15 years defies any logic, says Jason. Jane says the Labour government have delivered nothing apart from fear, upset, and people don't know where to turn. People can see us with their own eyes what is happening. They're telling us what they see is wrong. Graham in Birmingham says, morning Peter, yet another MP has trouble tying a sentence together. Ridiculous situation. Great show. Leslie says, typical from the Labour MP, more obfuscation. The people of the UK are by law forced to pay the licence fee under threat of imprisonment. What for? Lies and bias. And we're asking that question this morning. What do you think about this? Is Donald Trump right to sue the BBC? Because that is, to a degree, your money and my money, if you're in fact paying your licence fee. So is Trump right to sue the BBC? What should happen in all of that? Should they reach some sort of accommodation? The BBC has apologised, but they say they're not going to pay him any money. What do you think should happen? 0344 499 1000. Stay with us.
fact that I was removed from the show, that should have been enough. And then not invited to Lathan Live in the finale, that again, OK, I take it on the chin. But then to not even be invited to the untelevised rap party, I think it's a step too far, to be honest. I think they're trying to make an example of me and trying to castrate any future contestants from going against the grain, from putting their head above the parapet, delving into those fragile subjects.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Jane has been in touch and says, "Hi Peter, I can't believe that Labour politician you've just had on us, Chian Wara, saying that Reform UK has no policies and will trash the economy. What on earth does she think Rachel Reeves is doing? Also to say the Labour Party is not falling apart, what planet is she living on?" Regarding Panorama as well, this person says, "What was it not an independent production company which was responsible for the splicing of Trump's speech? Has anyone from that company been reprimanded or lost their job? And are they currently making another programme for Panorama about Nigel Farage?" They are actually, and Reform UK have decided to pull out of that programme. It's October Films is the company. I wonder how unbiased that's going to be, says this texter. Let's just remind ourselves of what Donald Trump has been saying about the Panorama programme. This is the one that doctored the clip. So, you know, people talk about a mistake. They doctored the clip. This was a deliberate changing of what he had to say. Let's see what Donald Trump has been saying about this on Air Force One.
What BBC did, nobody would even think a thing like that was done. They actually changed the words coming out of my mouth. Well, we'll sue them. We'll sue them for anywhere between $1 billion and $5 billion, probably sometime next week.
So you're ready to take...
Well, I think I have to do it. I mean, they've even admitted that they cheated. I mean, not that they couldn't have not done that. They cheated. They changed the words coming out of my mouth. The people of the UK are very angry about what happened, as you can imagine, because it shows the BBC is fake news. Plus, you and I knew that for a long time, but we didn't know it was this fake.
Have you raised the issue with Sir Keir Starmer?
I have not, but I'll call him. I'm going to call him over the weekend. He actually put a call into me. He's very embarrassed by it.
So our own Prime Minister trying to get the ear of the President of the United States. He didn't ring him back by the sound of things. Let's go to the debate desk. Matthew Goodwin-Freeman, the political commentator and Conservative councillor, is with us, as is Elliot Keck, head of campaigns from the Taxpayers Alliance. Good morning to you both.
Morning.
Elliot, let's start with you. Is Trump right to sue the BBC?
Yeah, I think he's got them bagged to rights. We saw a similar case where he sued CBS over their own doctoring of Kamala Harris's comments during the election. They doctored those comments to make them look more coherent than they actually were. I think the figures being thrown around, the billions, is obviously absurd. It's not going to be anywhere near that much. But, you know, when you talk about the archetypal example of fake news, it would be to doctor two parts of a video together to make it look like someone's saying something that they're not. So I think he's got them bagged to rights. I think he's right to do it. And the key question is, from the government, what is their response going to be? Because at the moment, the funding model of the BBC means that whatever money that they end up paying, it comes out of our pockets through a TV tax rather than under a subscriber's model.
So would a payout to Donald Trump of between, as he puts it, $1 and $5 billion, that would be licence fee payers' money. Would you be happy with that?
It would inevitably be licence fee payers' money, and that would demonstrate why the licence fee has to be scrapped. Because at the moment, every indiscretion, every mistake that the BBC makes, no matter how costly, is paid through force, through enforcement of a tax rather than a subscriber model. If we were subscribers to the BBC, if we had a subscription to the BBC, we could all, if we decided to, cancel our subscription to the BBC, which would mean we individually are not financially liable. At the moment, households, owners of TVs are, because we have, as I said, a TV tax that is enforced through the paid imprisonment, ultimately.
Yeah, Matthew, what do you make of this?
Well, I think, as Elliot says, Donald Trump has got this bang to rights. The BBC, as you said, didn't just edit or cut the speech, absolutely doctored it. These two moments of the speech were almost an hour apart when you actually look at the full speech, what Trump said. It's just absolutely dreadful. I agree with what Nigel Farage said earlier this week. This is the last chance saloon for the BBC. They have got to come out committing to changes, committing to reforms, committing to absolute impartiality. Stop giving us the opinion and just present the public with the facts. Let the public come up with the opinion and the decision on all the news. I find it ridiculous that we talk about the BBC as this brilliant gem of the United Kingdom,
the envy of the world, the Culture Secretary said this week.
And maybe
it's like the NHS, the envy of the world, yet no one else in the world has the system the same as the NHS.
Maybe it was, but it's not anymore. In the current state of the BBC, I can't see this carrying on for much longer. And also, let's look at the numbers. The number of people who've cancelled their licence fee, I think it was 300,000 last year, 300,000 the year before. You cannot continue like that. If this was a private business, you'd be heading for bankruptcy.
From a licence fee payer's perspective, are you happy that the money would go to Donald Trump? Is that just the right way that this should happen? Or I mean, if it's $1 billion, for example, that's going to be a massive chunk out of the BBC's £6.5 billion budget.
One of the things that we were talking about just before coming on air was about how much is Trump actually going to get. He sued, wasn't it, CBS for
that's right.
billions of dollars, and only got
smaller.
I think 12 or 15 million pounds. So it's all relative at the end of the day. The fact is, this is a kick in the teeth for the BBC. It's a wake-up call. They have got to realise and change. I do think the conversation will happen with Keir Starmer and Donald Trump. Hopefully, Keir Starmer can take some heat out of this, because it's gone from 1 billion to 1 or 5 billion. I would like to see the BBC come out and say, this is the changes we are going to make. Here is our long, long list of reforms and changes we're going to be. We're going to be a proper, impartial service, no longer a passing opinion. Is that good enough, Mr. President? The BBC has to come out begging here, because it's the BBC's mess up at the end of the day.
Has the BBC been humble enough, do you think, Elliot? I mean, they've already got rid of the Director General and the Chief Executive of News. What more should be done, do you think, if anything?
I don't think they've been anywhere near humble enough. In fact, they've often come out and openly defended what they've been doing. A lot of their spokespeople on air have been talking about
the Culture Secretary as well, Lisa Nambi, yesterday on BBC Breakfast.
Conspiracy against the BBC, and yes, maybe we made this. I mean, the framing of it is that it's a relatively small error. I mean, Tim Davie only went after days and days and days of multiple scandals on trans issues, race issues,
the Gaza
documentary. We are talking about a cataclysm of scandals that has been dogging the BBC for years on the biggest issues of the day, right? If the BBC cannot get the biggest, most controversial, most important issues of the day right, there is no point to it existing. It's one thing to get a minor issue wrong, something where maybe an activist group is captured on the inside.
Things happen all the time. Look, in this 3-hour programme, I will probably make some sort of factual error. If someone tells me about it, and believe me, people do.
But we're not forced to pay your salary.
Well, that's true. But what the other week, okay, this isn't a major thing, but the other week I talked about COP30, for example. About a week ago, talking about COP30, and I said, oh yes, India and China aren't there. What I should have said was the leaders of India and China aren't there. They sent a delegation. They just didn't have their Prime Minister of India and the President of China. The next day I was on, I said, talking about the issue again, I said, do you know what, I'm sorry, thank you to the person who got in touch with me to say that actually I was wrong. India and China sent delegations, they didn't send their leaders. I'm happy to sort of correct mistakes, because guess what? I'm not right all the time. And that happens in journalism. But this is much, much more than that. This is serious
as bad
stuff.
As it gets.
It's institutional bias, and the fact is, you didn't double down on it. You didn't double down and say, no, absolutely, India and China were. You owned up to a mistake. The BBC have got to realise this is institutional. We have seen scandal after scandal, year after year going on, whether it's left, right, conservative, it doesn't matter. That is the problem with the BBC. It is institutional. And they have to come out and say, we're not just going to change the person at the top, we're not just going to change a couple of heads, we are going to absolutely change the BBC and take it back to being completely impartial. That's the only way we can trust it.
We'll be back on the debate desk in just a second. Let me give you a few of your views before we go to the break. Simon says, people talk a lot in Britain, but they're spineless. Violence and hate is not the answer. Action in terms of stopping paying your TV licence en masse, that is the answer, says Simon. And one more before the break from a texter who says, the BBC used to be a great organisation. It would be a shame to get rid of it. The left would not lose if an organisation with the word British in it got closed down. All the staff who have ruined the BBC will go and work for another company, and it will be a win-win for them. Have it clear out of all the people trying to make it a political weapon. Scale it down so it can be rebuilt. Get some people in there who just give a non-biased, both ways information, and get it back to being one of the best TV stations in the world. Well, thank you for that. Lots more to come, and we're asking the question this morning, is Donald Trump right to sue the BBC? Tell me what you think. 0344 499 1000. Loads of other aspects to talk about today. The budget, for example, the Shabana Mahmood, the Home Secretary, wanting to end permanent asylum as well. We'll all talk about all those issues, and a great story today in The Sun. Outcast, the man who wrote Stop the Boats on his mother's leg cast, she'd broken her leg, facing a safeguarding probe from his local council. Britain 2025. Stay with us here on Talk.
across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Brian F. from up north says, morning Peter, is the BBC a limited company? Could or should Trump go after the managers and directors who oversaw and agreed the decision to air the Trump piece? It's an interesting point on that. They're a corporation, certainly. So these economists just talk nonsense, says Simon. The Chancellor doesn't need to raise more money. They need to get the public sector and the government spending down on things I've noted in my text previously. So the amount of tax that would need to raise in government for public spending like infrastructure will be far less. We need a referendum on what things the people of Britain want the government voted in to do. This Labour government is going wild and doing 100% just what it wants. I didn't vote for this, and I certainly didn't vote for these people in power today, says Simon. Lots more on Chion as well. I don't get the sense that there are many people who particularly like what she had to say. Many people texting us. Let me just see what I can get here on Chi. Sorry, just my system has just managed to jump here. Here we are from Leslie and Bromley, who says Chion is definitely anti-Trump. So obvious. I think Trump was right suing the BBC. It shouldn't be licence fee payers who should pay. Let the top bods pay off the fine. It isn't the public's fault. The BBC did that on purpose to discredit Trump. The BBC has hidden wrong-uns for years. As far as legal immigrants, no one should be granted asylum. Every one of them has travelled here through the numerous safe countries, including the safety of France. That equals economic migrants committing a crime by entering our country illegally. Ask yourself why foreign country. That, of course, as in Bedford, who says, just had a thought, what if Trump went ahead and sued the BBC for billions and then donated it to his mate Nigel and the Reform UK party? That would be one hell of a case of lessons will be learned. I think it absolutely would. We're going to continue talking about the BBC. Well, maybe we can take a call on it in a minute or two, actually. But I want to go back to the debate desk with Matthew Goodwin-Freeman and Elliot Keck here with me now and talk about the budget and Rachel Reeves putting stealth taxes at the heart of the budget, plotting a new tax on middle-class homeowners. The income tax rise, a huge U-turn, and what a fiasco this week for lots of reasons in the Labour Party. Elliot.
Yeah, it's a complete catastrophe. They clearly have absolutely no idea what they're doing. At least the benefit with the discussions around the income tax was there was sort of a degree of certainty. We knew that we were all going to be made that little bit poorer, that it was the ultimate admission of failure from this government that they were going to make us all a bit poorer. But we did have that sort of certainty that they just raised one tax on everybody, probably not have to do that much else. Now that they've scrapped that, suddenly they're talking about a smorgasbord of taxes, which everybody agrees is the worst way to do tax. So they're going to be targeting businesses, savings, pensions, homeowners, property, and it means there's this catastrophic level of uncertainty. It's going to be gumming up markets for the next couple of weeks, and you're already seeing the consequences in the gilt yields, which spiked yesterday. That's going to massively add to government borrowing levels, and it's absolutely clear that I would trust a pair of unconscious children in the cockpit of a plane more than I would this Chancellor at present, because
were they wrong?
No idea what she's doing. From
your perspective of the Taxpayers Alliance, were they wrong to say they weren't going to touch taxes on income tax, VAT and national insurance? Because that's about 75% of the tax take. Yeah. And then you've got all these different little bits of taxes and raising things and thresholds and all the rest of it. Would it just be, if you're going to, I don't want them to raise tax. We've got the highest burden of taxation since the Second World War as a proportion of what the country makes. Should they have just not said they weren't going to raise income tax?
So the key point with the tax system at present is the tax burden does need to come down. It's at the record high, so any discussion that leads to increasing the amount of money going into the government is starting from the wrong place. That being said, if you're thinking about a broad reform of the tax system and you're looking at, cutting and abolishing lots of taxes, but then in return there's small increases to some of the major ones, that would be a sensible way of approaching the tax system. So yes, they were wrong to rule out increasing VAT, NI, and income tax. They obviously were, because at some point over this Parliament, one of those taxes is probably going to go up given their inability to control spending. But I do think also we need to zoom out a bit more and just acknowledge that taxes need to come down overall, and they need to come down very quickly.
Where do you stand on this, Matthew?
Well, all we're talking about is tax increase, tax increase. When are we going to start talking about spending cut, right? This Labour government came in saying that they wouldn't increase taxes on working people. They can't define what working people are. We've all seen the impact of that. Unemployment up to 5%. National insurance increase on employers, meaning that it's harder to employ brand new people. We've seen, 0.1% growth for the last quarter. Well done. We're going for growth. Absolutely fantastic. It's just ridiculous. But we talk about tax increase. Where's the spending cuts? Let's scrap this Chagos deal that's going to have billions and billions of pounds to foreign countries for land that we already own. Let's cut the welfare budget, cut so many things and get people back into work. My first ever TV interview was way back during COVID, when there were millions of people on job seekers allowance and less than that number of people of vacancies in this country. And I argued, get those people into those jobs, say to them, you have 6 months to pick a job from this list and start doing it, or else we're cutting your benefits. And the government never did it. Now, it was Conservative back then. The numbers have nearly doubled since then.
Yeah.
Unemployment at 5%. That's the same level as back in the COVID lockdowns. So this Labour government is absolutely trashing this country, and all we're going to see is tax increase, and not spending cut. And we saw they tried to push through very, very basic welfare reforms through Parliament and had an absolute rebellion from their backbenchers.
Yeah, it was weird to see a Prime Minister with such a huge majority who couldn't get something basic through. Elliot?
Yeah, I mean, every year we talk about the fact that we don't have any economic growth, the fact that productivity is stagnant, the fact that, you know, our long-term future of the economy is looking pretty miserable, and yet every year we conclude, oh, as a result of all this, we're going to have to raise tax even more.
Yeah.
Well, at the very least, we can't cut tax. When, as we know, one of the key reasons behind why we have such a productivity crisis is the fact that if you're a parent earning £100,000, the second you go over £100,000, you lose about £10,000–15,000 in childcare allowance, right? You become poorer if you're a parent once you earn £100,000 compared to £99,000. That means that people are working less. That means people are not taking promotions. There are people turning down promotions because the tax system means that they end up poorer as a result, right?
Yeah.
We have an absolutely catastrophic tax system that is the reason why we don't have economic growth, reason why we don't have productivity improvements, and yet every year our conclusion is that we just need to raise taxes that little bit more.
And the problem is, this government has such a huge majority, they could rip up the tax rules in this country and design something completely brand new. This is the opportunity to do it.
They could in theory, but if you don't have the backbench support to reduce welfare,
well then that's the whipping. That's frankly how you lead your party. The Prime Minister and his team of cabinet members, his chief whip, all of them lot in Parliament need to start leading a party instead of bending down to the wishes of every single backbench MP. This country needs reform. Not in the political party sense, because otherwise I'm going to lose my whip, but it's in the sense of we need to change.
It certainly needs leadership, and I think there are many people who believe that it needs leadership. I certainly think that we're crying out for leadership. I think we have for a long time under successive governments. Chris in Surrey says if Reeves lowers or freezes the tax thresholds, prepare for all the public sector workers to demand pay rises to cover the extra tax now they're in the higher bracket, says Chris. Zarina says the issue I have with Trump about to sue the Beeb is one of editing. Trump's speeches are long and protracted and honestly quite boring. They are improving these days. Agencies have to edit the speeches. However, on this occasion, the editors did an appalling job. Zarina, you're right in the sense that yes, we edit all the time. You will have seen, if you're watching on the screen, that clip of Trump that we had. That we put two little white flashes in it. That is an editing device to say that yes, he spoke for 5-6 minutes, whatever. We're showing you however long our clips are, 30-40 seconds, to tell you the essence of what he said, but we're not changing the meaning, and that is the absolutely key bit. We'll talk more about migration in a second. One texter says we already have a system of temporary entry to the UK. That doesn't work either, as people don't go back and we don't know who is here. It's beyond the pale. It's spineless. It lacks leadership, which is what the country needs. It's not always about the words that come out, but it's being visual too. Tad says Donald Trump is absolutely right to sue the BBC, given all the spineless UK politicians who dare not speak out against the all-powerful Marxist mouthpiece. President Trump is the only one who can break the BBC's lopsided, undemocratic, untouchable dominance. The world would be so much better without the left-wing BBC, says Tad. Thank you for that. And another person, Margaret, says, morning Peter, that was no mistake, spliced together. The BBC should own this scandal and just say we did it, and this should not have happened, says Margaret in Birmingham. And he also thinks, I don't really think Trump really wants to sue, but probably will. It'll be very interesting to see what happens. I think we'll probably take a call about the BBC after the break with Elliot and with Matthew, and we'll make sure your views are on the air as much as possible between now and 1 o'clock. We'll talk about Shabana Mahmood and this asylum idea as well, so stay with us here on Talk.
In terms of your question around taxes, there are no additional tax rises needed beyond the ones that I've set out.
Don't need to increase taxes. I'm not coming back with more borrowing or more taxes.
I will not increase your national insurance. I will not increase your VAT, and I will not increase your income tax.
We don't need to come back for more. We've done that now. We've wiped the slate clean.
The economic circumstances have declined, deteriorated since a year ago. We are having to look at taxes and spending.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
This is Talk. Good morning. I'm Peter Cardwell. Thank you so much for your company. Simon in Stirling has given me a ring on 0344 499 1000. Simon, it's great to have you on the line. You're on with me and Matthew and Elliot too. What would you like to say?
Oh, morning, Peter. Just listening to the debate about the BBC apologists saying that Trump shouldn't get any compensation because it would be public money. And I just don't understand the logic of that. Because if that's what you believe, what you're basically saying is if you had, for example, a child in hospital and because of medical negligence that child died, you would forfeit your right to sue the hospital for medical negligence on the basis that it would be the NHS that would have to be paying you public money, paying you compensation.
Yeah, I mean,
it's saying that postmasters and postmistresses under the Horizon IT scandal would not be allowed to sue the government because it would be public money paying the compensation. There's no logic to saying because it's public money, someone who's been libelled has got no right of redress.
That makes perfect sense to me. What do you think, Elliot?
Well, I mean, the sad reality is it is far too difficult to get money out of the government when something goes horribly wrong. So I absolutely agree with the caller, but one of the problems we have is that, you know, no matter how bad the negligence is within the NHS, it's a lot more difficult to get money out of the NHS than it is some private medical systems where these things do tend to work a little bit better. So I agree with the point. When the state does something wrong, when the state does something awful, including the BBC, people should be able to get compensation, but actually often it's far too difficult to get compensation.
Yeah, Simon, you're spot on. The fact that it's public money should be no barrier to getting compensation. If people do something wrong, they have to hold their hands up, and if compensation's due, compensation's due. You're completely right. And to make the analogy with the NHS, again, spot on. The NHS is publicly funded. Things go wrong in the NHS, there is a complaints process and a compensation process. The BBC has to be held to the same standards.
Simon, what would a fair payout for Donald Trump be, do you think?
Well, I think normally it's got to be before, although it's very subjective, what is the actual damage that's been done to the American president? And again, the BBC apologists say, oh, well, he won the election, he went on to win the election, so actually there was no negative consequence to him. I would probably disagree with that. But if the size of the award is not significant enough relative to the size of the person that's committed the act, then it's not a disincentive. So you may say £1 billion, $1 billion is a ridiculous amount of money. But relative to the annual budget of the BBC, it's really not a massive amount of money. Say it's 15% of its annual revenue. I don't think that should be put on to the licence fee. The BBC should just be told you've got 15% less money to spend, because if there's no financial consequence for you, there's no incentive for you not to repeat exactly what you've just done before.
Simon, thanks for your point. That's Simon in Stirling in Scotland there. £6.5 billion is about the BBC's budget. Just two more stories I just want to talk about before we get to the 11 o'clock news. One is this migration idea that Shabana Mahmood, the Home Secretary, she wants to end permanent asylum, announcing reforms in a bid to make the UK less attractive to migrants. We'll be hearing a lot more about this tomorrow. We've got Chris Philp, the Shadow Home Secretary, and Shabana Mahmood's representative on Earth, Mike Tapp, the Junior Minister in the Home Office, will be with us. Reform UK, we're hearing from them as well. We're talking to the Lib Dems, hopefully getting them on too. So a bumper political Sunday programme, of course. But what do you make of this idea, Matthew?
Oh, I mean, you know, Labour are trying to talk tough on illegal immigration. I mean, at the end of the day, just look at the numbers. This is on track to be the worst year in record for boat crossings. We're seeing illegal migrants housed in every single hotel you can really throw a stone at. We're seeing illegal migrants get in, out, shake it all about, and they still get paid by the taxpayers of Britain. I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous. This is all lip service. I hope that they bring in some reforms and it actually works, but I'm not going to hold my breath, and I don't think the British public should either.
I think the proposal is definitely serious, in not allowing indefinite leave to remain for 10 years, and you have to demonstrate you've not been on benefits, you've not committed a crime, you have been in employment. I think that's very, very positive. I also like following the Danish lead, which is to say we are offering you asylum because your current country is not safe. Once your country becomes safe again, we should look at returning you. But I think there's firstly two things. I don't think it's strong enough. I think if the very first act that you make upon entering this country is a crime, i.e. to enter it illegally, you should be automatically ruled out from claiming asylum.
Exactly.
But I think the flip side of that is this is going to end up being watered down. I mean, they could not cut the benefits bill. They could not cut the winter fuel payment. You know, they have no ability to actually get any of this stuff through. And so even though the rhetoric is positive, not strong enough, and the idea is positive, it will end up failing, I think.
And we'll talk lots more about that tomorrow. We'll also be asking the question that many people ask me, who do you think you are? Because I've got a DNA heritage reveal tomorrow. Yes, really. That's postponed from a couple of weeks ago.
Any relation to Claire Balding? That's a running joke as well for anyone who doesn't realise. So
a lot of people think I look a bit like Claire Balding. Anyway, what I was about to say was about Denmark, and I said when I think about Denmark, I think about bacon. One thing, and the Little Mermaid and Borgen and all the rest of it. One thing that might be quite nice to put bacon on is a nice piece of toast. I would imagine there'll be a lot of people who will be having their breakfast this morning. Marks and Spencer's has been criticised for selling 2 slices of bread for £4.50. Tech Up Dave noticed this story. I'm going to come to you in a minute. Of beef with you in a second, not bacon but beef.
Yeah, very good.
£4.50 for 2 slices of bread, Matthew.
£4.50 for 2 slices of bread that aren't even British. I mean, it's ridiculous. Come on, this is M&S at the end of the day.
We voted leave.
So. I mean, it's just like £4.50 for 2 slices. Well, not even 2 full slices, cut triangle slices of bread. It's just ridiculous. Buy a whole loaf, and other stores are available.
It's lots of bread. You've had it.
So I've had the one that is pre-topped actually. So I realised I haven't had the plain one.
£7.50?
It was quite expensive, yeah. But I am quite into these Ponzi foods. I like that M&S presents them, and you know, almost ready to make. You just have to stick it in the oven. You don't have to do much to it. But we have to remember the reason why these things are so expensive is because of Rachel Reeves' disastrous budget last year.
Brilliant.
It's that national insurance rise on employers in particular.
But come on, £4.50 for 2 slices of bread. I mean, that you can't always blame Rachel Reeves for that.
We've had quite significant inflation over the last few years. Supermarkets don't make significant profits. Their profit margins tend to be 2-3%, and
definitely.
You know, I can only recommend. Actually, it's actually quite nice.
I'd ban it.
And well,
I'd ban it. You want it in the stores? I'd ban it. Unacceptable.
Blame the chance of the Exchequer for that price.
Okay, well, I'll stick with a slice of Ormo or a nice piece of Vita any day of the week. Thank you both very much indeed. Elliot Keck, their head of campaigns at the Taxpayers Alliance, and Matthew Goodwin-Freeman, the political commentator and Conservative councillor. Thank you to you as well. Cian in Cornwall says, so do the BBC not have to have liability insurance for something like this, as I would in my business? Surely that would cover the compensation. I imagine they do, and that may well do so. There's lots more to discuss. We'll get into the numbers about how your take-home pay is going to change after the budget, especially now the income tax rise is gone. We'll continue to ask the question, is Donald Trump right to sue the BBC? John Cooper is a Conservative MP, member of the Business and Trade Committee. We're going to talk to him in just a second about all of that. We'll talk about the doctors striking as well, and the man who wrote Stop the Boats on a cast and was triggered an inquiry.
across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Well, a very good morning. This is Talk. I'm Peter Cardwell. It's just gone 11 o'clock, and between now and 1 o'clock, I want to get your views on the air about all the big issues of the day. Do you think Donald Trump is right to sue the BBC? He says he's going to do that for between $1 and $5 billion because of the doctored clip that went out on Panorama that's come to light and caused the resignation of the Director General and the Chief Executive of News. We'll talk about Rachel Reeves putting stealth taxes at the heart of the budget and her plot on new taxes on middle-class homeowners. There's lots that the Labour Party has suffered this week. They've been fighting like rats in a sack, as have your party. We'll be talking about doctors' strike, the doctors' strike, juniors' doctors' strike, inflicting pain and misery on patients. That's what the Health Secretary says. And a little bit later on, we'll be talking about a story. This was sent in by a viewer. A cat ordered to stay inside by a court. Should animals be forced to stay inside? We know that cats in particular kill a lot of birds. They kill a lot of other rodents and other animals, and this is a cat in this is a cat who has been forced to stay inside by a court. We'll talk about Robbie Williams as well. He says he's going blind from taking fat jabs, and a story I am fascinated by in The Sun today. Outcast. This is a man reported for scrolling "Stop the Boats" on his mother's leg cast. Yes, really, a safeguarding inquiry was instituted. We'll hopefully be talking to Trevor before the end of the programme. Lots to discuss here on Talk. You can give me a ring to get your voice on the air. 0344 499 1000 is the number to call. You can text me 87222 with the word Talk in your text. You can tweet me at talkTV. Follow me at Peter Cardwell. Send me a voice note. Tech Up Dave is going through them. We'll play some of them out very soon. 0344 499 1000. That's the number for WhatsApp text messages as well. And also if you want to give me a ring. Loads to discuss between now and 1 o'clock here on Talk. Well, Donald Trump has been talking about his intention to sue the BBC after that doctored clip. This is what he said on Air Force One.
What BBC did, nobody would even think a thing like that was done. They actually changed the words coming out of my mouth. Well, we'll sue them. We'll sue them for anywhere between $1 billion and $5 billion, probably sometime next week.
So you're ready to take...
Well, I think I have to do it. I mean, they've even admitted that they cheated. I mean, not that they couldn't have not done that. They cheated. They changed the words coming out of my mouth. The people of the UK are very angry about what happened, as you can imagine, because it shows the BBC is fake news. Plus, you and I knew that for a long time, but we didn't know it was this fake.
Have you raised the issue with Sir Keir Starmer?
I have not, but I'll call him. I'm going to call him over the weekend. He actually put a call into me. He's very embarrassed by it.
Donald Trump there on board Air Force One giving his view, and what we did in that clip, unlike the BBC, is we put little flash frames in there, little white flashes to tell you, yeah, he spoke for a long time. Our clip was, what, 45 seconds, something like that, and we made clear that there were changes. That's not every single thing he said. There are just a few bits of what he said. The BBC didn't do that. They put together the clip to make it look as if it was a continuous Donald Trump calling for insurrection on the 6th of January. Frank in Nuneaton's been in touch and says Trump should apply $1 billion for each of the BBC attacks and gather it through increases in tariffs in the UK, referencing the BBC for the impact on the economy. That way it goes to the US people and not himself. Deb says someone within the BBC gave a specific instruction to doctor the video of Trump's speech. Trump should go after that individual with a separate lawsuit. This was a deliberate, calculated action, and Trump must weed out the culprit, says Deb. One more before I go to my guest. Jane says anyone who takes on the BBC deserves a medal. What they do to people is a disgrace. The sooner they've gone, the better. Plus, we would all be better off. Great show as always, says Jane. Well, thank you. I want to speak to John Cooper now. He is a Conservative MP for Dumfries and Galloway, a member of the Business and Trade Committee. John, good morning.
Good morning to you, Peter.
John, there's so much I want to talk to you about the economy, about the budget that's coming up in 11 days' time. Can I just get a quick reaction? I just thought a thought from you in regard to the BBC and whether Trump should sue it. What do you think about that?
I think this is an existential crisis for the BBC. I think one of the difficulties they've got is that Donald Trump is a businessman here in the UK. He's got golf interests just up the coast from where I am. He's in Turnberry. I'm in Stranraer at the moment. And so he's got a reputation to defend in this country. So I think he actually has grounds for suing. People are saying, oh, the programme wasn't shown in America. But arguably, Mr. Trump's reputation in the UK has been damaged. So I think the BBC have got big problems here. And also it goes to the wider question of their journalistic standards. As you say there, you're very careful to show that Air Force One clip was compressed a little bit. But this was a deliberate act by the BBC to change effectively what Donald Trump said, to make it look like he was inciting violence. That's very, very serious.
What about the fact that licence fee payers' money could go to Donald Trump? Is that something you worry about? Is that something that's fair? We had a caller on earlier, made a very good point and said, look, if there's medical negligence in the NHS, for example, well, yeah, that's public money. Yes, with the post office, that's public money, but nonetheless, it's right that those payouts happen, especially if there is wrongdoing, if there's malfeasance.
Yes, of course, I'm worried that it's taxpayers' money, because at the end of the day, the licence fee is a tax, and we all pretty much pay it, me included. But the BBC may very well carry insurance against libel or defamation. That's a matter for their lawyers, and that would hopefully prevent licence payers' money going. But the principle is still the issue. The BBC being sued, that's dreadful for a national broadcaster.
It's bad for our national reputation as well. We know that Donald Trump has put a call in, has had a call put in by Keir Starmer. How embarrassed should the government be about it as well? Lisa Nandy yesterday, I found it almost incredible what she was saying on the BBC Breakfast, telling the broadcaster herself, said, you know, the BBC's the envy of the world. I'm not sure it is.
I think at one time it was. I think it's got difficulties in the modern era. I mean, its reputation has been tarnished and changed. It's a difficult position for Keir Starmer as well. He's got quite a good relationship with President Trump, but is he going into bat for a national broadcaster which is supposed to not be a player in these things? It's supposed to be an impartial bystander. All of this makes the BBC's position very, very tenuous.
John, you're a member of the Business and Trade Committee. You're a Conservative MP for Dumfries and Galloway. What do you make of what's happened this week, the U-turn on an income tax rise? I'm sure many people will be breathing a sigh of relief that their income tax isn't going to go up, but at the same time, there are so many people who, you know, were bracing for this. And this isn't just Westminster gossip. This isn't just, you know, Labour tearing itself apart and different briefings and things on Twitter and podcasts talking about it. And that's fine. And that's, you know, that's if people want to talk about it, that's fine. But these are serious issues that affect how much money people have in their pocket, businesses, struggling families, and to me anyway, there just seems to be absolute chaos at the heart of what Labour is actually going to do in 11 days' time at the budget. What do you think?
I think it is unquestionably Labour tearing itself apart. I think that is the subplot here. There's a great schism within the Labour Party, but you're right, it's got implications for the pound in people's pockets. And the market's reacted badly to all the speculation. First, income tax was going up, then it's not going up. And it looks as though now what the Chancellor, at the last minute, at the 11th hour, is scrambling to put together is a kind of smorgasbord of smaller tax rises. And so the end result of that is going to be, as I say, less money in your pocket and in my pocket, and it's going to hammer businesses. And we know that business confidence at the moment is absolutely on rock bottom. Growth is dreadful, sclerotic. This government came in just over a year ago saying growth, 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 and in fact all we've had is shrink, shrink, shrink.
Yeah, and I wonder as well about some of these stealth taxes that we're hearing about today. Certainly in the papers today, Reeves plotting a new tax on middle class homeowners, for example. She's saying that she's accused of a shambles this week, and she's going to put a stealth tax on workers and pensioners after dropping the manifesto-breaking plan to increase income tax. She's going to extend, apparently, the freeze on income tax threshold for 2 years in a move that'll leave 10.1 million people as higher rate taxpayers, equivalent to 1 in 5 adults. I mean, you no longer need to be really rich anyway to be, obviously you're better off than the average salary, but nonetheless, there are a lot of people who don't earn what they would say salaries that make them rich, who will be higher rate taxpayers.
Yeah, so we already have in this country a progressive system whereby those who earn more pay more. That's already the case. And now they're coming after, just as Labour can't define what a working person is, they can't define what a rich person is. So you're talking about people who by no means are very, very wealthy. You're talking about people who are senior teachers, senior policemen, senior people in the NHS. They suddenly are looking down the barrel of paying much, much more. And pensioners, who, through no fault of their own, have seen property prices go up, suddenly they are going to be hit. How are they going to find the money for this super tax that's now going to be apparently applied to them as well? So it's a deeply troubling picture, and it's not great that that's been dealt with in this way by the Treasury. There's a black hole, then we've stabilised the finances, then there's another black hole, then suddenly the OBR say there's more headroom than we allowed. This is all nonsense. This is a Chancellor and a Prime Minister struggling to deliver the hard and difficult choices that need to be made against their own backbenchers.
They would say, of course, that the economic inheritance they got from the Conservatives means that they have to make these tough choices. What would you say to that?
So they told us that at the last budget, and they then piled on even more taxes. They took $40 billion out of the economy. Their employment rights bill, which is coming through, which is a love letter to the unions, let's be clear, is estimated by their own estimate to take $5 billion out of the economy. That's not growth. That's another tax raid. So it's the inheritance was actually better than I would say than they give us credit for. They keep talking about the best growth of the G7. That was the position when we left office. We had the biggest growth of the G7. So it's what the Labour Party have done since the last budget that is now coming home to roost.
John, thank you. That's John Cooper there, who is the MP for Dumfries and Galloway for the Conservatives. He's a member of the Business and Trade Committee in Parliament. Thank you to him. Thanks to everybody else who has sent in their messages. Sai says, decades ago the BBC was necessary to pump prime and embryonic industry, but has become the overbearing 400-pound gorilla in the room now, and its bias is ever growing. Since pre-Brexit it has operated like a propaganda machine, and the Trump debacle was inevitable sooner or later. It's now time to cancel the licence fee and radically prune the corporation and allow others to grow into the space. Mary in County Down says the BBC is not just institutionally biased, it's institutionally corrupt. Penny in Essex says, good morning, Peter. I hope Trump sues the BBC because splicing those two speeches together was a mistake, but it was not done by mistake. It was a deliberate act to make Trump look bad. Apparently when he sues, he has charities for where the money goes. The BBC have no doubt done this before and no one has noticed. I wonder if the person responsible has been sacked. There's no mention of that, says Penny in Essex. And Penny, you make a really good point here, because there are quite a number of people who will have been involved. There's a whole chain of people who signed off that programme, said it should be aired, and didn't check what had happened. Mary in Hemel Hempstead has been in touch with a phone call, 0344 499 1000. Mary, you're very welcome to the programme. What would you like to say?
Well, as far as I'm concerned, the BBC and its supporters are still lying. They're still not telling the truth. It was deliberate. It wasn't a mistake, and they keep saying it was a mistake. That is an outright lie. And unless they learn, the BBC, that they've got a problem with the truth, they're never going to be changed.
As you say, Mary, there are quite a number of people who should have lost their jobs here, and I think actually Jonathan Munro, who is a senior BBC person as well, I mean, he wrote the LGBT guidance in regard to the trans row. There are all sorts of issues here. It's not just the clip of Trump. This was a 19-page report. It's on the internet if you want to read it. And Mary, I just wonder whether you think Donald Trump is right to sue the BBC.
Yes, I do. I hope it breaks them, because they just do not seem to learn by their mistakes, or as they call them. They just keep on repeating the same old thing. And, I mean, I haven't had a TV licence. I haven't, when I left the BBC years ago, because of the way they were going. I mean, they've been biased since the 70s, because they used to give much better coverage to the IRA than they did the British soldiers.
Mary, thanks for your thoughts there. That's Mary in Hemel Hempstead. Lindsay's been in touch and said, I would like to think that Trump is representing the British people by suing the BBC. I hope he wins. Colin says, I hope Trump bankrupts the BBC and indirectly puts this rotten government on warning for what's coming. Let's not forget it was Labour who sent over to the USA some of their mob to rally around for the Democrats during the USA election. Well, there were, of course, supporters of the Republicans who went across as well, but yes, they weren't organised by the Labour Party specifically, or by a political party specifically, as far as we know. Sean in Gloucester says, I'd be very interested to see what else Trump's legal team uncover that the BBC have done when they start investigating. I'm sure there'll be plenty more examples of bias, lies and propaganda, says Sean. Plenty more to come on this and every one of the issues you want to talk about today, whether it's the budget, whether it's Trump and the BBC, however your opinion shakes down, whatever you want to say. Get in touch, 0344 499 1000. Stay with us.
In terms of your question around taxes, there are no additional tax rises needed beyond the ones that I've set out.
Don't need to increase taxes. I'm not coming back with more borrowing or more taxes.
I will not increase your national insurance. I will not increase your VAT, and I will not increase your income tax.
We don't need to come back for more. We've done that now. We've wiped the slate clean.
The economic circumstances have declined, deteriorated since a year ago. We are having to look at taxes and spending.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Trevor in Harrow has been in touch. He says, I think Trump's team have been going through all the past archives of the BBC and discovered just how many lies they've told about him, and Panorama was the final straw. I hope he cleans them out, says Trevor. Thank goodness, for goodness sake, forget Trump, forget 5 billion, the BBC should be removed, and the corporation removed, says this texter. They committed a crime and interfered with an American election. That's it. Simon says Donald Trump will serve two purposes: get the justice he deserves and force the BBC to make some root and branch reforms, or destroy it completely. Let's get some voice notes now. Ian's been in touch.
Hemel Hempstead. I think Trump is doing the right thing. I think potentially it could be a good thing for the people of the UK, for the BBC to actually have to become accountable. But my concern is there'll be a payout. It'll cost us all a fair penny, and then they'll make 2 or 3 token changes at the head of the BBC. Say lessons will be learnt. Lessons have been learnt. There will be change, and then it's business as normal, and that is my real concern. Nothing really changes.
Ian, thank you for your thoughts. Let's hear another voice note from Nick.
A very good morning to you, Peter. It's Nick from Loughborough. I'm sick and tired of hearing these people, particularly MPs, coming out with this guff that this trouble with the BBC was a mistake. That isn't a mistake. This was a deliberate attempt to fit up the President of the United States of America. Now, are we saying that when police in the past have falsified evidence to get somebody convicted who they know is a criminal, that's always been condemned? This is exactly the same thing, but in a different guise. And to think that the problem is solved by Eb Davey resigning is also nonsense, because you can change the gear lever as often as you want, but the cogs below in the gearbox are still knackered, and as such, until all the cogs are changed, the car won't run. Have a good day, Peter.
Nick, thank you. I think you might mean Tim Davey rather than Ed Davey resigning there. Tim Davey, the head of the BBC, or was certainly the Director General anyway. Maybe a Freudian slip there, Nick, that you wanted Ed Davey to resign, the leader of the Liberal Democrats. You know what they say about Freudian slips, one tends to lead to a mother. Let's hear another one from Ian on Sheanwara.
Hi Peter, it's Ian from East Grinstead. Listening to your Labour MP trying to defend the BBC and say that Trump shouldn't sue, and saying that Trump has told lies. Yes, he has told lies, like all politicians, but he's actually never put false words into someone's mouths. If you're going to sue people for telling lies, we'd be suing Rachel Reeves, Keir Starmer, David Lammy. Well, we'd be suing the whole of the Labour Party and some of the Tories as well in the previous cabinets. So she's conflating issues. Yes, Trump lies, but no, Trump has never put words in other people's mouths like the BBC have to give a different impression and make the persons supposedly saying them look in a bad light. I mean, they are a disgrace. And as for the BBC licence fee payers having to pay it, well, they have to, the BBC has to take its punishment. They need to learn that you can't misrepresent like they've done.
Ian, thank you for that. Let's go to Dennis in London, who's given me a ring on 0344 499 1000. Dennis, you're very welcome to the programme. What would you like to say?
Good morning.
Morning.
I run a business for my sins, and it's international, and I've got clients all over the world. And if I've got a major problem with a big client the other side of the world, I wouldn't send a letter. I'd get on a damn aeroplane, fly over there, see the guy face to face, have it out one-to-one, and Trump would love that.
So that's what you think he should do rather than necessarily suing?
Yes, he should. The chairman of the BBC should get on an aeroplane, or should have done. It's too late now. Got on an aeroplane, gone over there, and spoke to the man and sorted it out. I mean, all this diplomacy backwards and forwards, and it's very interesting to hear that Keir Starmer phoned Trump, and he said he's going to phone him back.
Yeah.
I know Starmer loves getting on an aeroplane, never hear Keir, but it could not have done any harm going over there. And if Trump takes it to court, then good luck to Trump.
And as a businessman, Dennis, you know the value of a face-to-face conversation could, in theory, save the BBC quite a lot of money. Can I ask you as well, Dennis, just while I have you as a business owner, what your thoughts are on Rachel Reeves, the budget coming up? I mean, you've no doubt dealt with the national insurance rises for your contributions over the last year.
Well, I don't think there's enough time left on your show to tell you what I think of Rachel Reeves. She's ruined this country. She's ruined this country. We were planning on taking on about half a dozen other staff a few months ago, and I looked at the cost of it and I thought, what's the point? What is the point? It's just...
So there's 6 people who could have a job who now don't have a job because of Rachel Reeves.
Absolutely right.
Absolutely
right. Because she just doesn't get it. She's out of her depth. She's like a rabbit in the headlights. She hasn't got a clue. She's not qualified. Whatever she says, but they're called she lied on her CV. But it's just, I'm speechless. I don't know what's going on in this country.
Dennis, thank you. Really appreciate your call on both those matters. Susan Kenton has some thoughts on the BBC as well. Sue, you're very welcome to the programme. What would you like to say?
Good morning.
Morning.
I was listening to the MP, is it Chi
Onwurah? Yeah, that's right.
Earlier on, yes. And she said that the BBC had apologised and almost said that should be enough. As far as I'm concerned, Trump should sue because, they haven't just done this once. They've done it more than once. She also said that the immigrants in the hotels don't get 5-star treatment. I've seen on the TV the pictures of the bedrooms, the layout of the food, and all that. As far as I'm concerned, they do get 5-star treatment. I'd pay good money to have a holiday with rooms and food like that. So I think it's just disgusting that she was just there to defend the BBC, and I think in her eyes they couldn't do no wrong. That's what it sounded like to me, anyway.
Okay.
Reiterating what everybody else has said.
No, listen, Sue, your great points there, and thank you for them. I really appreciate that. That's Sue and Kent there. Joanna in Salisbury talking about the problems with your party, with Jeremy Corbyn's party. Cardi P, Adnan Hussein said feared. Oh no, hold on, that was sorry. I think you're perhaps mixing up the names there. Chi Onwurah, the Labour MP, said she feared reform and no plans for the country's finances, which they have and are still forming. Labour are running the country and have no plan and have botched the finances of the country. Let's hear a couple more voice notes. Cass has been in touch about the BBC.
Morning, Peter. It's Cass from Cambridgeshire. That guy you've got on, that guy you've just had on there is talking absolute utter rubbish. He's skirting around every which way but possible, apart from the fact that the BBC did cut and edit that Donald Trump clip. So he's talking absolute rubbish. Peace out.
Thank you, Cass. Let's hear from Elisa.
Good morning, Peter. Brightening up our Saturday in this awful rainy weather. I support Donald Trump 100% in suing the BBC because they have to learn a lesson. I only wish that Israel could sue the BBC as well because they've caused so much grief to so many Jews around the world with their reporting. It's about time that somebody stood up to them, so go for it, Donny. Go. Great show, Peter.
Elisa, thank you for that. David's been in touch as well. Says, please correct your guest in the use of the word mistake. Chian Wara was ignorant. The mistake the BBC made was to think they could cheat reporting accurately and honestly, and a genuine apology is still pending, says David. Penny says, that MP you're speaking to, Chian Wara, Peter, she was spouting nothing but rubbish. Even when you pulled her up on the lies, she just carried on. What a nightmare. Tony in West Yorkshire, with regard to the BBC, yes, I do think Donald Trump should sue the BBC, and to be honest, I don't think it will come out of our pockets, as the BBC will almost definitely have liability insurance. Keith in Wolverhampton, I think Rachel from Pick and Mix hopes that Trump sues the BBC. Why? Because she can add that to the list of blame when the BBC is bankrupt. They already blame Brexit, Jaguar Land Rover, the doctor strike. Now it is Trump's fault. Well, actually, the doctor strike is what we're going to talk about next. We're going to talk to Roy Lilly about that former NHS Trust chair, because they're inflicting pain and misery on patients. That's what the Health Secretary, Wes Streeting, says. So stay with us for that discussion here on Talk in just a few minutes' time.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Well, thank you so much to everybody who has been in touch. I've had a look at some of my tweets there, and we'll go through those as time goes on. But just a few texts. One from Jeffrey, who says, the BBC, it's time to make a pay-per-view. Luckily, I don't have to pay the licence fee, but if I did, it would be cancelled. No way am I paying for their lies and political manipulation. The whole structure needs its left-wing thinking brought to heel. And Barry says, morning, Peter. From Morecambe, I think Donald Trump should sue, as it gives it to a British charity as gift aid, meaning the government will have to pay the same. As for the doctors wanting even more, the NHS should be told they will get the increase by making other staff redundant. Let's see how popular it'll be then. Barry, you make a good point on actually the problems with the NHS and the junior doctor strike, which continues. I'm going to discuss now with Roy Lilly, who's a former NHS Trust chairman. Roy, where are we with this? Because Wes Streeting, the Health Secretary, has condemned these doctors striking. We know it'll cost a huge amount of money to actually cover this strike, about £250,000. Where do you stand on this, and where are we today at 11:30 on Saturday morning?
Well, we're in a kind of limbo, Peter. Streeting won't speak to the doctors. The doctors say they won't stop striking until Streeting, the Secretary of State for Health, starts talking about money. They've had, as near as damn it, a 30% increase over 2 years. They've had their promised contributions to their exam fees and some of their professional fees. There's a 10-point plan to try and improve their working conditions, which is yet to be implemented, but will be. Streeting is just refusing to talk to them. So we're in a sort of stupid limbo, very much like when you and I used to talk about Steve Barclay.
Well, I remember that, and certainly Wes Streeting has been very damning of the doctors. Let's take a little look at what he's been saying about them. He has been very defiant on this matter. I'll get your reaction in a second to this clip, Roy.
Given the NHS is on the road to recovery and we've made real progress over the last year, it is extremely frustrating that the BMA have chosen to engage in completely unnecessary and irresponsible strike action. Resident doctors have had a 28.9% pay rise, the highest pay rise in the public sector 2 years in a row, and they've got a government and a health secretary who wants to work with doctors to improve further their jobs, their progression, their terms and conditions. These are not conditions for strike action. My message to patients, we're doing everything we can to keep the show on the road this weekend, but there will be disruption, which I do not take lightly, and that's why I'm so angry that the BMA have chosen to take this course of action. But I'll be doing everything I can to get the NHS through the next few days and then to recover the service and continue to make progress so the NHS is there for all of us when we need it.
Recover the service and make progress, Roy. He wants it to work, but can it work when they're having such a dispute?
It's very difficult, Peter. I never thought I'd hear myself say this, but actually the NHS is getting very good at dealing with strikes. This is the...
It's had to adapt, Roy, surely.
Yes, it has. And what they're doing now, previously what they did was they said, we will do nothing during the strikes. Everything gets parked for safety reasons and so on. The NHS now has a new chief executive, Sir Jim Mackey, who runs a very successful, or used to run a very successful trust up in Northumberland. He's taken an entirely different view. He says, we will continue business as usual as much as we can. Now, what he's doing, as far as the waiting lists are concerned, he's doing all of the sort of simple stuff, the day case stuff, the diagnostics, and pushing them through the system. And last time there was a strike, he got through nearly, it was pretty much 93% of what they should have done during that period they did. He's aiming for 95% this time around. But of course, it does leave, these are the simple procedures, the straightforward, the day case procedures and the diagnostics. It does leave procedures that require an overnight stay or something more complicated. It leaves people parked on the waiting list, and these are generally the more complicated patients. So on the one hand, they are still cracking the numbers through, but it's still very disruptive and it takes forever to get people back into the system. Fundamentally, you have to clear your hospital of people who need overnight care because you haven't got the doctors to look after them. During the strike, you try and avoid admissions as much as you can, and then afterwards you just have to try and roll your sleeves up and sort it out. It's really very complicated to handle, but as I say, the NHS is getting better at doing it.
And because they've had to adapt. What will be happening in NHS hospitals this weekend? What if people need care and the junior doctors simply aren't there?
Well, there is a way of bringing, if there is an emergency, there is an agreement between NHS England, or the Department of Health really, and the BMA to bring junior doctors, well, we mustn't call them that anymore, resident doctors back in.
I'm happy to call them junior doctors. I will not pull you up on that.
Thank you. Well, I mean, they're behaving like juniors, really. I mean, it is frustrating and very difficult. I mean, everyone can see the difficulties we're facing with the economy. Heaven knows in a fortnight's time what the Chancellor is going to say. I mean, everybody understands that. They have had a 30% increase and they have had big efforts to try and improve their conditions. Their other problem, of course, is that when they come out of training, there aren't the jobs because we're not funding enough doctors' posts in the system. And Streeting has increased the numbers of people that will be employed after people come out of training. So that's an improvement, but the doctors say it's not enough. Look, at the end of the day, Peter, we know, don't we, that this is going to end up in talks. It's no good Streeting saying, I won't talk to them. If he doesn't want to talk to them, my recommendation would be he went to ACAS. Go to ACAS, put in someone neutral in the room, someone who can be a go-between.
The dispute resolution service there that is used in industrial tribunals, isn't it?
Yes, it is, and it's very good. I mean, this is what they do. And it's no good Streeting saying, this is terrible, but I won't talk to them. It's no good the junior doctors saying, we want this and that and the other. They have to sit and talk. Now, a lot of people's pride is at stake now, certainly Streeting at a time when he's been eyed as the new Prime Minister, and, his political career is really, on the one hand, he's hanging in the balance, and on the other hand, he might consider it's being consolidated. But if he can't sort this strike out, it will damage him politically as well. So my advice to him would be go to ACAS. Let's get some talks going. Mediation never solves a strike, but mediation gets people talking, and then once you're talking, you can solve a strike.
Roy, thank you. That's Roy Lilly there, the former NHS Trust chairman. Lots of people getting in touch about that and the BBC as well. And Paul has been in touch from Tyneside on the BBC, 0344 499 1000. Paul, you're very welcome to the programme. What would you like to say?
Thank you, Peter. Yeah, so the BBC, when I pay the licence fee, it's my understanding that I'm taking out a contract because I'm purchasing a licence.
Yep.
And they have failed to fulfil their obligation to give me unbiased news.
I agree with that, yeah.
So have I got right to then either withdraw a proportion of my licence or to take them to court the same as Trump?
Well, could we all sue the BBC for breaching their charter, and what is the actual sanction for that? I mean, they would say the regulator Ofcom is the one that sanctions them if they breach impartiality. Maybe it's less than a sanction which would involve the licence fee, but I think that's a really interesting point, Paul. Do you think Trump is right to sue them?
I think he is. I think if Trump was to play a blinder, he would sue them for money and then donate that money straight to a British charity.
Yeah. Paul, Yep. Sorry, go ahead, finish your point, Paul.
Yeah. So what you were just saying there, Ofcom have that ability, but at the same time, though, if I go into a petrol station and I buy diesel, the petrol station has got an obligation to give me what I'm paying for.
Yeah, exactly.
If I go out, my car breaks down and trading standards come in and prove that the fuel was faulty, I sue the petrol station.
Yeah, it's very, very good points, Paul. Yeah, very good points. Listen, thank you for them. That's Paul in Tyneside. Appreciate that. Let me know your thoughts on all of this. Robin in Suffolk says Donald Trump is playing straight out of his Art of the Deal book. He doesn't need the money, but he will extract a favour or change the trade rules in his favour, or maybe get a new contentious golf course planning permission, says Robin in Suffolk. I'm not sure the BBC can do that for him, but it's an interesting point, certainly in terms of how he operates. Lots more to come in this. Your calls, text, tweets and voice notes will be coming your way in just a second. Whatever your opinion on any of these issues, Trump certainly seems to be the dominant one today, but whatever you want to talk about, I see someone wants to get in on the budget there and we can talk to him as well. 0344 499 1000. Stay with us.
In terms of your question around taxes, there are no additional tax rises needed beyond the ones that I've set out.
Don't need to increase taxes. I'm not coming back with more borrowing or more taxes.
I will not increase your national insurance. I will not increase your VAT, and I will not increase your income tax.
We don't need to come back for more. We've done that now. We've wiped the slate clean.
The economic circumstances have declined, deteriorated since a year ago. We are having to look at taxes and spending.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Thank you to everybody who's been in touch. I've just been having a look at a few tweets there, and Terry says, I'm sick and tired of Streeting claiming there are 2 million more appointments. Can you tell me how many of these appointments have been cancelled? I bet it's quite significant, and I'm aware of quite a lot of them. Terry, you're right, and quite a number of people have mentioned that to me about these being cancelled, usually, well, not usually, but often, certainly by the NHS themselves and postponing them. Kevin Hayes says, Peter, when are you going to go to the doctors yourself to have those splinters removed from your backside? Stop sitting on the fence. I'm not really known for not having an opinion on things, Kevin, but thank you for your message nonetheless. And Paolo also says he was disappointed that you let that North East Labour MP Chian Wara get away with saying the BBC made a mistake in splicing the footage of Trump. Well, I'm absolutely clear, and have been for days, that this was doctoring. This was much more than a mistake by October Films that made the Panorama documentary. It wasn't a mistake, says Paolo. It was a deliberate falsification. It was designed to lower his reputation, and so it is defamation. And that's the question we're asking today, actually. Is Trump right to sue the BBC? Mark in Glasgow has an opinion on that. He's given me a ring on 0344 499 1000. Mark, you're very welcome to the programme. What would you like to say?
Morning, Peter. Right,
Hi there.
No mistake. I mean, all the Labour apologists, they must have had the memo. All the Labour lot are apologising, saying there's an apology for a mistake. There was no mistake. That was deliberate, malicious editing. In order, and just, I think, was it released a week before the?
Yeah, it was broadcast 8 days before the US election. Yeah.
So absolutely intended to destroy his presidential hopes, and it didn't work. So there we are. But in fact, I'm a reluctant TV license payer. I think the BBC are so woke, so they have completely taken on trans wokery, lefty bias, anti-Semitic bias, that I'm sick of them. I don't like watching them at all.
Do you think this will make anything change, Mark?
No. President Trump, let's give him his full title. President Trump needs to sue not only the BBC, the chairman, because he's responsible for what goes on there, but also the people who were involved in production of that program, the entire crew of editors, journalists, and so on, and bankrupt them in just the same way that the Democrats bankrupted anyone that supported Trump over the last couple of years with endless court cases. So I think he should do that. And if he does win, then the money that's taken, I'd be more than happy to see that go to GB News and talkTV to make sure we get a much more level playing field, because you guys are being starved of proper advertising by this lefty woke lot who've threatened all the advertising agencies. That's a matter of record. It's not a matter of my speculation.
Mark, it's very interesting you mentioned that. I wonder whether you think any progress can be made on the licence fee and what you think should happen and what the model should be. Would you be happy to pay for some BBC programmes, a subscription model perhaps, or individual programmes that you pay for? What would you be happy with? What should the BBC be?
The BBC needs to be slimmed back. The BBC came into being and there was nothing else on the horizon whatsoever. We now have hundreds of TV channels. Mostly are paid for. Quite a lot on Freeview are free of charge altogether. And the BBC's model is corrupt. It's a huge organisation, and you can always tell when they've got too much money and not enough ideas, because they start going crazy in terms of HR, in terms of management, in terms of wokery, EDI, or the IDE, EDI, whatever they call it.
DEI, yeah, diversity, equity and inclusion, yeah.
Yeah, they create jobs for themselves. They've destroyed, I used to watch as a kid Doctor Who, they've destroyed that by all the nonsense and wokery and they've thrown there. They're wrecking their own reputation. Yeah. Their news is no longer unbiased. I just don't watch them because if I want truth, I'll watch you and I'll watch GB, because you do get left and right wingers on, and you debate stuff, you talk about stuff, and people draw their own conclusions. The BBC have become almost like watching Chinese or Russian or North Korean news.
You think it's as bad as that?
So left wing. Yes, absolutely, it's as bad as that. They take a position. The position is left of centre. It is woke. And there's pushing of trans ideology and the rest of it, and blocking of anything that goes against that. There's pushing of global warming and so on, or whatever it's
the climate emergency, Mark. The climate emergency,
which is non-existent bull. My father was a geologist. He pointed out to me when I was a kid what's going on. It's the Earth cycles and climate heating and cooling.
Mark, I must say there are some bits of the BBC that I quite like. Traitors, for example. The Traitors, 12 million people watched that. That's high at the moment. It's not, EastEnders when Dirty Dan was saying that he was divorcing Angie, when there were 4 channels, or I think there were probably 4 channels at that stage that were free to air and 20 million people watched it or something like that. I mean, 12 million is an awful lot for one programme. I'd be happy to not pay the licence fee, but to pay, £2 to watch an individual programmes. If I wanted to watch a documentary, pay £2 for that. And that actually is the model for Amazon Prime. And what you do with that is that you pay, I think it's £8.99 a month or something I pay for Amazon Prime, and then if there are individual programmes you want to watch, you can spend, I think it's £1.89 or something like that per programme. Do you think that might be an idea?
I think the idea of subscription is not a bad idea. I believe there needs to be some sort of world service. There needs to be a basic level of news and a very simple entertainment. But all this grandiose nonsense that they're getting into, and all these statements and all this parading around of pretty much non-entities as celebrities, I'm sorry, it just doesn't interest me. It doesn't interest the kids. They're all watching. They're not watching BBC. They're downloading stuff.
Of course, yeah.
What is their market? Why are we paying all this money? I'll tell you why. Because just like the civil service, just like the post office and all the rest of them, it's become a sort of a massive quango, and money just pours in and keeps pouring in because no one has the guts, dare I say, the balls to do something about it. It needs doing, and this crisis is the opportunity for government or us or some other organisation to step up, have a look, and cut it back to where it should be, rather than just let it keep growing and costing us more and more money.
Mark, great call. Lots to chew on that, and really appreciate you giving me a ring on 0344 499 1000. John's done the same thing from Newcastle. John, you want to talk about the budget? What would you like to say?
Well, basically, I would like to talk about the fact that years ago, over 14 years ago, the Labour Party won power. I was born and bred Labour, however, certainly not anymore. I would have Labour voting Labour. 14 years ago, they left a note, didn't they? There's nothing left.
Yeah, no money left. There is no money.
The Conservatives came along and they made a massive mess of it. And now, of course, the ball returns to Labour. Yet again, we're in a mess. Billions and billions of pounds have left this country, and now we're left with taxes to pay. This is going to be a second turn that Labour says there's nothing left in the bank. It's a possibility. And in relation to the BBC, I've always wished that it's one of the highest license fees in Europe, and it's a disgrace. When I was a young lad and I'm 80, you got It did half up, Mum. I've been served. Hello, Dad, showed me porridge.
There were things you actually wanted to watch, John. There were things you wanted to watch. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and the comedy was very good. They do nothing like that to me.
Yeah.
Nothing like that. All they can do is to put up the prices. And so one of the highest I'm at the be.
Yeah, and as you say, one of the highest in Europe. John, listen, thanks for your thoughts. Appreciate them. That was John in Newcastle there. Ashley is in London and has some thoughts on Trump.
Morning, Peter.
Hello there.
I don't understand where people come along and say that he should not sue the BBC or have the right to sue the BBC. And that's what I mean. I'm not his biggest fan, but ultimately there was so much in that documentary that could be pinned on him for not coming out sooner to try and stop the issues there. But what they chose to do is have a significant point that they actually fabricated something to make it look so much worse. That if he wasn't the president of the United States and he was, I don't know, the head of HSBC or even you or me, Peter, and someone did that and ruined and trying to discredit you, you have the right for legal recourse against them and for damages. And I think we've got to get away from the fact that he's the president, which kind of makes it worse, really. But if he does sue us, I mean, I'm worried because it's going to come out of our pockets ultimately.
Although they may well have liability insurance as well, maybe that would cover it, Ashley.
Well, I mean, it's possible, but insurance doesn't always pay for intent, does it?
Yeah, it's true. It's true. Yeah.
It's got to be a valid claim, and if someone's actually fabricated something intentionally, which clearly is the case, then the insurers, I'm sure, will put up a good fight themselves.
Yeah.
But the thing is that what this will do is make every single person who's making a documentary think twice about their compliance as to what is correct and what's not, and I hope that it will bring people to wake people up.
Yeah,
you just can't make your fact that we rely on these people to be impartial.
But they should know, Ashley. They should know you can't just make stuff up.
Well, they should know this. But the intent, let's be honest. Everything in the world, it seems at the moment, is an attempt to discredit other people, whether it's one side or the other. Politically, people are trying to discredit people in every respect, and this is no different.
Yeah.
This is people in the BBC that have their own personal views and vendettas against a specific person, right, rightly or wrongly, but they're not using neutrality, which is meant to be the case for the reporting.
Yeah. Okay.
And this is what is happening, and we're seeing this play out. I just think that they didn't need to put that in to actually have the effect that they wanted on that documentary. And that's the part that is so bad about this whole thing.
Ashley, great points there. Some really, really good calls today. Thank you very much, Ashley in London there. Let's hear a couple of voice notes now just before we go to the 12 o'clock news. Baz has been in touch on Chianwara.
Morning, Peter. Just watching Chi make comments on Donald Trump's splicing of the video footage. I'm sick to death of hearing these people that are clearly on the left trying to make out like it's some kind of mistake and it was an error. It was no error. It was done maliciously and on purpose. And for people to keep saying, oh, they've apologised for the mistake. No. There's a difference between, running somebody over in a car and running a knife through them, and they've run a knife into his back. It's absolutely disgusting. These people are trying to protect the BBC. I hope to God he sues them into an oblivion, and it's the end of them. Their left-wing biased propaganda. Great show. Keep up the good work.
Thanks, Baz. Let's hear from Danny.
Morning, Peter. Danny here, Salisbury, West Yorkshire. Wholeheartedly support Trump in suing the BBC. It weren't a mistake. This was done on purpose. I think with the settlement figure Trump does receive, he should donate to Nigel Farage and the Reform Party.
Thank you for that, Danny. Let's hear from Kitty.
Hi, Peter. Kitty from Kent here. I just wanted to add comment on the BBC. I do hope that Trump sues them, and I hope he's successful. And I would like to see it defunded and stopped altogether, and the content become a subscription service. But also, I think that the fact that he's going to give it to charity, any money, will trigger lots of people. I worry and wonder at people who are basing their entire political outlook on the output of the BBC, both the content of its dramas, but as well as its news. And we have got no idea how much they've tweaked, changed and lied about. It is really very serious and very worrying. Have a lovely day.
Thank you, Kitty, and thanks to Ted as well. He says the BBC should be sued. Remember Diana, Cliff Richard, now Trump. The BBC isn't fit for purpose, being our country's state spokesman that we pay for. Starmer should apologise for the government state media failures, unless, of course, it was under Labour or government instructions. Did they send people to oppose Trump in the election? Well, certainly the Labour Party did put some people, send some people over to America to campaign for the Democrats. We're going to talk more about this with Adrian Mills, the former BBC presenter, in just a second. We're also going to talk about the cat ordered to stay inside by a court. What do you think about animals being ordered to stay inside, especially those who go around killing bird life? Lots to discuss. Be sure to get your call in as well, 0344 499 1000. Plenty more to come after the 12 o'clock news.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Good afternoon, this is Talk. I'm Peter Cardwell, right through to 1 o'clock. Lots to discuss on Talk today. Loads of people have been getting in touch, and we'll get to your calls, text, voice notes and tweets very, very soon. We've also got Adrian Mills on, the former BBC presenter, on the crisis engulfing the organisation. And the question we're asking today is quite simply, is Donald Trump right to sue the BBC? Given they've now apologised, should he get some money out of them? And is it our money, public money, or actually should, if it takes it away from BBC programming, are you happy for that, or perhaps the high salaries of some of those executives? Lots to discuss on all of this. We'll also discuss the banning of cats. Yes, really, there was a court order saying that one cat had to be kept inside in France. We'll talk about that a little bit later on. 0344 499 1000 is the number to call about any issue you want to talk about. I know some people want to talk about the budget as well. We'll come to that too, because it is about 11 days to go. You can text me 87222 with the word talk in your text. You can tweet me at talkTV. Follow me at Peter Cardwell. Be sure to send me a voice note, less than a minute please, on 0344 499 1000. You can also send me a WhatsApp text message or give me a ring on that number too. Loads to discuss in the next hour here on Talk. Stay with me right through to 1 o'clock. Well, we just spent the news break looking at a couple of tweets there, and Dallas says, "Hi Peter, if Trump wants to win his suit, the BBC must use his existing funding to pay off the fine, and if that means no one there will receive their ludicrously high six-figure salaries as the coffers are empty, well, boo-hoo." Caden says, "Of course Rachel Reeves will put stealth taxes on things. She and everyone in her government no doubt will have loopholes around them so they're exempt, same as billionaires and big businesses, and they dared to criticise the Tories." Joe says, "The BBC cannot mark their own homework because they don't believe they have any to mark." Owned by Lisa Nandy and Keir Starmer calling for an independent inquiry. Can the BBC be rid of its institutional bias? The BBC is denting the special relationship, and that should enter government action. Very interesting one from Daza. This is on Sion Wara, the MP from Labour we spoke to a couple of hours ago. He says, "Peter, I've just edited what your Labour guest said over a 5-minute period, and it reads, 'It's so frustrating, attacks on Donald Trump. I will fight to make sure it happens.'" Now, she didn't say those words in that order, but she did say all those words in your interview, so it's okay to edit it in that way, according to the BBC. Delusional. Amy says, "I think Trump is right to sue the BBC, but the problem is that if a court was to say that compensation should be awarded, it would likely come from licence fee money, which means that we would have to pay for something we haven't done. It's the people in the BBC who have done this," says Amy. Ian says, "Has it ever entered Sion Wara's head, the Labour MP's head, that spending more money might not be the answer?" Ian also says, "My £175 is already gone. Is paying damages to Donald Trump any bigger waste of money than programming on the BBC?" And one more before I go to my guest. Pete, if Trump was the monster that the media keep telling us, they wouldn't have to doctor his words. Well, lots to discuss in all of this. Let's hear from the man himself. First of all, he was on Air Force One and talked about this. This is Donald Trump, President of the United States.
What BBC did, nobody would even think a thing like that was done. They actually changed the words coming out of my mouth. Well, we'll sue them. We'll sue them for anywhere between $1 billion and $5 billion, probably sometime next week.
So you're ready to take?
Well, I think I have to do it. I mean, they've even admitted that they cheated. I mean, not that they couldn't have not done that. They cheated. They changed the words coming out of my mouth. The people of the UK are very angry about what happened, as you can imagine, because it shows the BBC is fake news. Of course, you and I knew that for a long time, but we didn't know it was this fake.
Have you raised the issue with Sir Keir Starmer?
I have not, but I'll call him. I'm going to call him over the weekend. He actually put a call into me. He's very embarrassed by it.
So we know that Keir Starmer attempted to speak to Donald Trump about it, but that didn't happen. He hasn't called him back. Adrian Mills is a former BBC presenter. Great to have you on the programme this afternoon, Adrian. How much trouble is the BBC in here, and do you think Donald Trump is right to sue them?
OK, well, he says they changed the words coming out of my mouth. Well, they didn't. Those were the words coming out of his mouth. But it's a bit like the old Morecambe and Wise sketch with Andre Previn. You're playing all the right notes, but not necessarily in the right order. And all the BBC had to do was to put that flash frame in, or, well, in fact, bear in mind as well, it was an independent production company. But I would have thought that that would have actually caused more scrutiny of the actual content.
Yeah.
I totally get why he's angry. However, do put it into perspective. Was it seen in America? On iPlayer, it wasn't. It was restricted to the United Kingdom. Did Donald Trump know about it until the Telegraph brought it up? No, he didn't. But it's a great headline. If he was suing for £1 million, we'd all go, oh, £1 million. But by talking about 1 to 5 billion, then it's a massive headline. And I suspect the BBC are insured for this sort of thing. They've got some very canny lawyers. They'll put forward a very robust argument. And I think they should. I understand why he's suing, but I think the BBC on this occasion have to stand firm and say, we're actually going to defend this, and we're going to defend this vigorously, because you cannot, as a state broadcaster, be bullied in this manner, as he has done to many American stations.
Is he bullying them I mean, they made a catastrophic mistake, and yeah, it may not have been shown in America, but their reputation has been sullied right around the world because of this. Shouldn't he ask for some compensation?
Yes, but not 5 billion.
I mean, he's not going to get 5 billion. We know he's not going to get it. What you do in these situations is you ask for a large, and then you negotiate it down.
Yeah. I kind of get why he's doing it. It creates great headlines. It stirs it all up for the BBC. It makes the BBC look, as people have said on your programme, woke and rather pathetic.
I mean, that's what. And in fairness, it didn't take Donald Trump to do that necessarily. There was a 19-page report that outlined many aspects of this in regard to trans, in regard to the Middle East, lots of other ways in which this happened. I mean, the Director General has not just resigned because of one doctored clip.
Correct, absolutely. But I would say that, and I always feel that I'm an apologist for the BBC, which I'm not, because I've not worked for them for so long. However, as the state broadcaster, I do feel sort of romantic towards it. I feel sort of I have to defend it. I feel it passionately that we actually do need the BBC. We need talk, we need GB News, but we need the BBC.
What should it be then, Adrian? What should it be? What should it look like? Because the model at the moment isn't working, is it?
It is or it isn't. All I would say, I get why people go, I don't watch the BBC, why should I pay for it? But put it into perspective. It is the cost of a cup of coffee per week. That's what it costs you. I've got a subscription channel at home. It costs me over £1,000 a year. I choose to have that, although I'm probably going to cancel very shortly because it's not sustainable. I'm watching a couple of football matches. However, for what you get with the BBC, yes, they don't always get it right, but I would suggest that 95% of the time they do. And if you take out the news, maybe that should be a separate channel. But you've got all the entertainment. You've got, as you mentioned, Traitors, Strictly Come Dancing, EastEnders, Sport, Radio 1 to 6, World News. There's so much there, and people are actually getting very narrow-minded about what the BBC offers. I mean, I would pay my money just to watch David Attenborough programmes. So, get real.
And maybe that's part of it, and maybe that's a way that we should look at it. For example, there's a load of stuff that I'll never watch or listen to on the BBC. I would never voluntarily listen to Six Music, for example. I've been stuck in a lift at the BBC when it's been on, for example. But when I made the point earlier, when I watch pay £8.99 a month for Amazon Prime, if I want to watch a particular programme that's not included with that, it's another sort of £1.89 or £2 or something like that. Could that be a model for the BBC? Because I think what a lot of our viewers and listeners see is £175 a year for a service they often don't use or don't want to use. And also, if you have a device that receives live television, well, then you're breaking the law if you use that in your home.
Yeah, well, I must admit, there is one thing that really annoys me. As you know, my wife is a restaurateur. We actually got 2 letters from BBC Licensing the other day saying, if you or any of your customers are watching iPlayer, you can be fined up to £1,000. I'm responsible for the customers? That's ridiculous. Presumably, they've got a license at home. Surely that covers it. That annoyed me. And that sort of chasing of people. If it went to a subscription base, I actually think they would not generate anything like the money they generate now. And that is the fear running through the BBC.
Yeah.
If, as you say, prices were £1.50, £2.50 to watch a programme, that's reasonable. But time and time again, prices creep up.
Yeah, that's
and
very
I
true.
think you'd be paying a lot more.
Yeah. Adrian, just before you go, there's a story we've been looking at this morning. We haven't been able to get Trevor on the show, unfortunately, but this is a man who wrote Stop the Boats. This is in The Sun today on page 9. A man who wrote Stop the Boats on his mum's leg cast after she broke her leg have faced a safeguarding probe from the local council. This is Trevor Lazel, who's 54, said his 89-year-old mother Shirley agreed with the message, but a doctor saw him writing Stop the Boats on her leg cast and made a complaint. He received a call from Southend Council. Staff visited his home and that he shares with his parents on Thursday. He's now a full-time carer to his mother and said, I was furious when I got the call and found out I feel absolutely ridiculous. You can see that on the screen now if you're watching. Outcast is the headline, reported for scrolling. Stop boats on mum. Council chiefs launch barmy safeguarding probe. Adrian, what do you think about this? The fact that they said people out and about, they said people out and about could be offended by this. She's bedbound.
I love that headline, Outcast. That's perfect. Maybe he was complaining about a local regatta in the nearby area.
You never know.
It is absolutely, in my opinion, totally and utterly ridiculous. And whoever the council officials are that are examining it, whoever reported it to the police, if the doctor had complained, I'm sorry, just sort of say, oh, I don't appreciate that. Or just let it go. It's not that important. She's bedbound. She's 89. Oh, my goodness me. What is the world coming to? It drives me insane.
Completely agree with you, Adrian. Thank you, former BBC presenter Adrian Mills. Thanks for joining us on Talk. Thanks to everybody who's been in touch on so many issues as well. The BBC seems to be the dominant one today. Kevin in Dorset has given me a ring at 0344 499 1000. Kevin, you're very welcome to the programme. What would you like to say?
Well, first of all, I think we have to forget it's Trump. And what they did wasn't a mistake. I've actually been in broadcasting all my life, and I was fit and proper person on about 15 radio licenses. And I've done a lot of editing in my time, and I'll tell you what...
Oh, Kevin, you there?
Well done on that.
Kevin, sorry, we just lost you there for about, I think about 5 seconds there. You said you've done a lot of editing in your life, and then what did you say after that?
And the BBC certainly do get a gold star for the edit, because you couldn't see the join.
Yeah.
But it doesn't matter whether it's Trump, Macron, or anyone else. You know, it did distort what he said.
It doesn't matter if it's a member of the public. It doesn't matter if it's a vox pop of someone on the street. If you change what they mean, that is dishonest.
And you've got senior journalists working on Panorama, but I've seen this right through down to BBC local radio. I've been ambushed on interviews. They don't stick to their guidelines. And I think it's permeated right through the BBC, and they're going to have to pay for it. Now, it doesn't matter it's Trump. A lot of people are upset because of that. Ed Davey has got on his hobby horse again. But it's really about right or wrong, not left or right. It's right or wrong. And what they did was wrong. And unfortunately, they can either calm Donald Trump down and pay some money, but they're going to have to provide for it because it's a hell of a lot of money. But going forward, I think the BBC has to move to a subscription model. People like John Whittingdale, who stood in Parliament, very well known, commentators like David Elstein, who spent his life, have all been saying this for years, and I even gave evidence before a Common Select Committee on behalf of the radio industry, because the BBC has just been too arrogant for too many years, and now they're getting their comeuppance. And I don't think a lot of people have read the memo, because it's not just about Trump.
Oh, there's so many different aspects, all 19 pages of it. Yeah,
and I have read it, and the DCMS over the next few weeks are going to be doing their investigation into this. So, you know, the process is underway. This is just one part of what I think has been a long and steady decline of standards through the BBC, and I think they should come back to their core values, look at things that commercial TV and radio cannot offer, and focus on that. And if they want to do anything more than that, then they can do that on subscription. So, but I think it's got to change now, and there's no question about that.
Thank you very much, Kevin. I appreciate your thoughts on that. Clearly, you know of what you speak. Plenty of people getting in touch about that, and the doctors' strike as well, actually. Leslie says, Streeting awarded the doctors a 28% pay rise, no mention of productivity and a guarantee of no further strike action. He left the door wide open. Mark in Croydon says, Peter, when Labour kept saying the Tories should get to the table and talk, it's funny how now he won't talk to the unions. It's things like this that make people switch off from politics. Sometimes a stance across the House should be taken, and striking doctors and train drivers, no points scoring in opposition. Margaret in Birmingham says, Peter and the team behind the glass, great show. I hope President Trump listens to all the messages this morning. We're all backing you, Donald, says Margaret in Birmingham. One story we were thinking of covering on the debate desk, and then we kind of ran out of time, was the front page of The Sun today. This is the Robbie Williams, the singer, fearing he may go blind from taking fat jabs. He says his vision is blurry and getting worse. The star believes that Monjaro he takes for weight loss could be to blame, admitting he struggles to see fans when he is singing. He said, I want to warn people reading this of the potential risks and to do their research on it. Certainly that is what he has been saying about those fat jabs. Now it's interesting, Paul in Hitchin has been in touch and says, Morning Peter, I was interested in the issue of blindness and fat jabs. My wife is a renal patient and was prescribed one of the weight loss drugs on the NHS to assist in losing weight, as she's gained a lot of weight post-transplant due to high steroid dose. Unfortunately, she is now back in dialysis. She has permanently lost the sight in her left eye. I'm very sorry to hear that, Paul. We currently have a complaint in with the NHS for investigation, but it seems there is a solid link between the two. Safe to say she is no longer on the job as of the beginning of June. Paul, that's a really, really interesting story, and I'm so sorry to hear what you and your wife particularly have gone through there. Thank you for bringing that to us. Steve says, are the junior doctors paid while being on strike? Are the BMA leaders still being paid? Another person says, why not bring in the army medics to cover the doctors? Dan in Kent, the story of locking up cats, Peter, I find it interesting considering the establishment can't even get humans locked up. Have a good day, you and the team. I'm off to the pub for a last bit of escapism to remember a friend who passed last week. Dan, I'm sorry to hear that you've been affected by that. This is the story we're going to talk about in a few minutes' time, actually, about a court in southern France ordering a woman to keep her cat permanently indoors after a neighbour complained the feline repeatedly jumped into his garden. The unusual ruling handed down in the town of Agen has triggered an uproar amongst animal lovers and rights groups who say it could set a worrying precedent. The neighbour accused the cat of damaging plants and frightening birds. The court sided with the complainant, ruling the pet owner must prevent the animal from leaving her home, putting the cat under house arrest. Animal welfare advocates have criticised the decision, arguing cats are naturally free-roaming animals and that the judgment could lead to restrictions on pets nationwide. Social media users have dubbed the case France's most controversial cat ruling, sparking a broader debate over animal rights and neighbourly disputes. We'll talk about that a little bit later on. If you want to comment on it, you know the way to get in touch, 0344 499 1000. We'll take more of your comments on the BBC, on the budget and indeed on cats next here on Talk.
In terms of your question around taxes, there are no additional tax rises needed beyond the ones that I've set out.
Don't need to increase taxes.
I'm not coming back with more borrowing or more taxes. I will not increase your national insurance. I will not increase your VAT, and I will not increase your income tax.
We don't need to come back for more. We've done that now. We've wiped the slate clean.
The economic circumstances have declined, deteriorated since a year ago. We are having to look at taxes and spending.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Quite a number of people in touch about the Robbie Williams story as well. He says he's losing his sight, so thank you to everybody who has done that. And Monjaro, the maker of Monjaro, is a firm called Lilly, and told The Sun patient safety is our top priority. We have ongoing discussions with regulators regarding potential safety topics, and we will continue to review data, including any regarding ophthalmic issues, eye issues. If anyone is experiencing side effects when taking a medicine, they should talk to their doctor or healthcare professional. That is Robbie Williams, who's on the front page of The Sun today, talking about a sight loss. He says it could be linked to taking these fat jabs. Very, very interesting. Number of people in touch. Leslie says the number of repeats on the BBC I paid years ago to watch. I'm paying again for repeats. Charles said, I love your show, but you're wrong about BBC Radio 6. It's the only good thing about the BBC. It's fabulous. Haha, the rest of it could disappear for all I care. I think I mixed it up with one extra. I think I've listened to things on 6 Music which are sort of all right, but actually one extra is the one that gives me a headache every time I listen to it. Right then, let's get a couple of voice notes. Ian has been in touch.
Hi Peter, Ian from Liverpool. Just a quick one, mate. The way the BBC are handling this, it's very similar to Keir Starmer's reaction after the protests, after the Southport murders. So, personally, I thought Keir Starmer read the room totally wrong. You know, when he was going on about, he basically labelled everyone far right and labelled everyone this, that and the other. And I think the BBC, you know, even though it's basically a half-baked apology, to not pay any compensation, to basically looks like they're picking a fight with Trump. I think they got it wrong. Great show, have a great weekend. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Ian. Let's hear from Bob.
Morning, Peter. So the BBC thinks that their election tampering with Trump is okay because it was unsuccessful. Would they say that about any other crime? Bank robbery, burglary? No. Bob in Chiswick.
It's a very, very good point. Thank you for that. Yes, Bob, I think that's a very good point. There is, I mean, I just think the BBC are on very, very dodgy ground here. Tarquin's in London and has given me a ring, 0344 499 1000. Tarquin, you're very welcome to the programme. What would you like to say?
Thank you, Cardi P. Great show as usual.
Thank you very much.
I personally think, and I think a lot of people, maybe even you, agree, well, maybe you don't know, you speak for yourself. I think now, given the revelation that the Daily T has discovered that Newsnight, Kirsty Walk presented show BBC Newsnight, was playing the same editing, splicing game on pretty much the same audio sample of Donald Trump 2 or 3 years earlier, I think it's looking like now we're at the point where this organisation is in the system, it's in the business of systemic distortion, and therefore it cannot any longer be construed to be in any way, shape or form a journalistic broadcasting organisation. It is now a fully fledged political propaganda.
You think it's as serious as that, Tarquin? We just can't take anything the BBC says seriously. Is that what you believe?
Exactly. So therefore, Ofcom rules no longer apply. It should be handed over to the criminal and civil courts, and due diligence, due justice should be done here, because I think crime is involved. It is the most heinous crime because it is basically larceny. It's lies, and more lies from the BBC.
That's a strong opinion, and thank you for it, Tarquin. Tarquin in London there. Let's go to Staffordshire and Gemma. You're very welcome to the programme, Gemma. What would you like to say?
Hi, Peter. Oh, you're putting on revenge. Good. I was going to say, I'm absolutely appalled. I'm so angry. I can hardly speak. I've got a bit of a cold, like an enormous cold. Now, I'm so cross with the BBC, have been for a long time. And I think it's quite funny that they've edited something in Trump's cross. But what I am even more angry about, and I can hardly contain my anger, is that we are going to have to clearly pay for this lawsuit. Now, if I was the Prime Minister, and thank God I am not, right, I would be saying, I would go on television like Boris did and speak to the nation in the way that he did, because it's not that bad. Keir Starmer is not completely useless, and I would say sorry. But that is really only the first thing.
Should it be Keir Starmer who says sorry, though? Surely it's the BBC's error.
No, yeah, but I mean, forget them. They can't do it. They're the people who've made the mistake.
They have apologised, though. They apologised last night, but they said they're not going to give him any cash.
About apologies from the BBC. Oh my God! If I had £5, which I don't have, right, because I'm absolutely broke, for every time the BBC have apologised this year or last year, I would be a millionaire. It's a joke. The Prime Minister needs to get on television now and absolutely, what's the word when a lawyer tells you off? Do that thing, right?
Admonish?
Yeah, admonish. Oh my God, yes. Admonish the BBC, give them a public beating, verbal beating. Tell us how sorry he is on their behalf. Never let them do this rubbish again. Kirsty Walk and all that lot. I have lost all.
Wasn't Kirsty Walk's fault though, was it?
I know.
What do you think of what Leslie says? Get King Charles to have a word with Trump. What do you make of that?
Oh no, because King Charles is part of another organisation which are really good at editing. I've had enough of him. I've just had enough. The only person who can say this properly is him, because he's in charge of this country.
Gemma, thank you very much. I wish you well with your cold. Thanks very much. It is that time of year, sadly. Let's hear another couple of voice notes. Nikki has been in touch on Trump.
Good morning, Peter. Yes, I don't approve of what the BBC did, but at the end of the day, Trump did incite violence on Capitol Hill. I've never seen anything like it. I think the country would be a poorer place without the BBC. I enjoy it immensely, so I'm probably the only person that will say this on your broadcaster. Also, what I'd like to say is that I think that Trump ought to open the Epstein files. Now, if he's innocent, why is he not doing that? Anyway, I'm sure that you won't broadcast this. Have a great day. It's Nikki from Kent.
Nikki, we have broadcast it because we're the home of free speech. What I would say is he has consistently denied inciting anybody on the 6th of January. It was an absolutely dreadful spectacle. There were lives lost that day as well. On the Epstein files, we know far more about them than we have previously. Yes, all of them should be released. I agree with you on that. And on the BBC, you know, I used to work there. I know some people who used to work there and inspired me. I know a number of people who still work there, and many of them are good people who do a good job and take impartiality seriously. But they have to do that, and there's so many people who don't, or don't even realise they're not being impartial. And when I was at the BBC, I tried really, really hard every single day to give both sides of the story, to just tell the facts. And that's what you have to do when you work for an impartial broadcaster. I did the same thing when I worked for ITV and Sky News as well. Now, the point is that there are people who haven't been impartial, and the BBC is under pressure as a result of that. I don't feel as strongly as, for example, Tarquin does, and I don't feel as charitable towards the BBC as you do, Nikki, but certainly there are many, many aspects to this debate, and we're very happy to have people having all sides of the debate on the show. Nikki, I appreciate your voice note, and we're very happy to play it. Dawn in Chelmsford says, Wes Streeting always says the NHS is improving, yet they still treat patients in corridors, and A&E waiting times are appalling. Am I missing something? Mark in Norwich, Wes Streeting might be saying the right things now, but let's not forget who is at fault for exposing us to these ruthless doctors. It is the equivalent of Wes leaving all of his money in his car with the doors wide open, and then when he gets back from doing his shopping, complaining that someone has nicked it all. John Ross says a licensing service doesn't allow you to withhold payment. It doesn't roll that way, more like your council tax, which you cannot withhold even if the bin collectors go on strike. Regarding the BBC, I want to see an inquiry into their obsessive coverage of climate change. Walrus plunging off cliffs because of sea ice loss would be one outstanding example of driving a narrative against the facts. Can we stop talking about doctors' pay? We need to talk about the pay package, including gold-plated pensions, says this texter. And another person says, Wes Streeting and a lot of MPs are liars. Most appointments booked, or a lot of them are cancelled. GPs getting away with murder, as our GPs and doctors are held in such elitist high esteem they can do no wrong. That is not right at every level. Let's speak to April in Shropshire, who's given me a ring. April, you're very welcome to the programme. What would you like to say?
Hi, Peter. Great show. Thank you. And thank you for letting your talkers talk and not talk them down, which some presenters do.
You may very well say that, April. I couldn't possibly comment. What would you like to say?
Yeah, I totally support Trump for going to sue the BBC, because their mealy-mouthed apology was not an apology at all. They showed no regret, never said sorry. And quite honestly, they are clearly a left-wing organisation. And I think if they want to be left-wing organisation, they should not be funded by the taxpayer.
How much should Trump get, do you think? Do you think $5 billion? I mean, that's an awful lot of money, isn't it?
Yeah, just enough to bring them down, I think. It's a shame, because I think the BBC have done a lot of good work, and I enjoy a lot of their programmes, but unfortunately they seem to be infiltrated with the left-wing people.
What should the licence fee be? What would you be happy to pay? What would be fair, or a fair way to pay, April, do you think?
I don't think we should pay for them at all, unfortunately, because they seem to be completely infiltrated.
So do you think they should be funded by advertising? I mean, where does the money come from?
Well, I think they should compete like any other organisation with advertising and whatever. I just feel sad that it's come to this because they used to be really good.
April, thanks for your thoughts. Appreciate them. Thank you to this texter who says, BBC versus Trump. The definition of film editing is the post-production process of selecting, assembling and arranging raw footage to tell a story. It involves cutting and combining shots and scenes, synchronising sound and visuals and adding effects to create the final film. Editing is a creative and technical craft that shapes a film's rhythm, tone and narrative by determining the order, pace and duration of the shots and can be used to build tension, create a specific emotional effect or recontextualise footage. This was not an error of judgment. This was a conscious act, and Trump is exercising his rights in holding this behaviour to account. Another person says, Peter, the editing wasn't an error. However, the real debate is whether airing it was deliberate or a mistake, i.e. due diligence wasn't done prior to going to air. Very good point. Natasha says, people keep saying that because the Trump clip wasn't seen in America or because Trump has only found out that he hasn't really got a case to sue the BBC. He definitely has. Quite simply, they did something deliberately wrong. I'm quite a bit older than you and have absolutely no sentimental attachment to the BBC. It's been pumping out rotten ideology for years, in my opinion, and is a prime example of everything bad that has happened to our once great institution, says Natasha. Michelle says the romance that loopy Adrian feels for the BBC is the reason they've gotten away with it for so long. They're biased and we've had enough. Another person says, what would happen to BBC's presenter pensions? No wonder he was supporting a broken and corrupt service. They're quick enough to harass the public that don't pay their licence fee with letters and door knockers. Karma is a Donald, says. Is it dawn? Karma is a dawn? Is that a phrase? I don't know. I don't know what. Sometimes the messages get slightly mangled. Anyway, we will take more calls on this. We'll also talk about the cat that has been ordered to stay indoors. Dominic Dyer's coming up. You're going to want to hear this. It's a weird and wonderful story from France. I'd love to know what you think as well. Maybe you're a cat person like me. 0344 499 1000.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is talkTV. Talk.
Well, one story was sent to me by a viewer this week, actually. I thought it was really interesting. A court in southern France has ordered a woman to keep her cat permanently indoors after her neighbour complained the feline repeatedly jumped into his garden. The unusual ruling handed down in the town of Agde has triggered an uproar among animal lovers and rights groups who say that it could set a worrying precedent. According to local media, the neighbour accused the cat of damaging plants and frightening birds. The court sided with the complainant, ruling that the pet owner must prevent the animal from leaving her home, effectively placing the cat under house arrest. Animal welfare advocates have criticised the decision, say cats are naturally free-roaming animals and the judgment could lead to restrictions on pets nationwide. Some people have said it's France's most controversial cat ruling, sparking a broader debate over animal rights and neighbourly disputes. Dominic Dyer is with me now, the animal welfare campaigner and chairman of Nature 2030. Dominic, great to have you on the programme again. What do you make of this ruling?
It's interesting, isn't it? You know, there is a debate about cats because, you know, we all love cats. I love cats. I'm a dog owner, but I love cats too. But, you know, they are free-living animals, aren't they? They go out and they do their thing. In some cities, I know, for example, in Canada, in many cities, you can't let cats out, so you have to keep them inside.
Isn't it right in New Zealand you're only allowed to have one cat per household as well?
Yeah, you are. And, you know, there are quite a lot of concerns in different parts of the world about cats, obviously, as an invasive species when they go wild and feral. And they've done a lot of harm to wild animals, particularly New Zealand and Australia. And the concerns, obviously, here in Britain about songbirds and other wildlife. I think it is trying to strike a balance, isn't it, between responsible cat ownership and allowing a cat to do what it naturally does. This situation in France is throwing up a precedent that could, you know, start a broader debate in other countries, I think. There are millions of cat owners in countries like Britain and across Europe. And, you know, you are going to have people that don't want them coming in their gardens, or they don't want them, you know, interfering with wildlife.
There are ways you can keep cats out of your garden, though. There are different devices and things you can put in. There's a device in, I live in a block of flats, but there's a little garden that the block of flats has, and it has a thing that clicks that sort of does a high-pitched thing to keep foxes out, for example. And also, if you let your cat out at whatever time of the day, some people say you should keep them in at night and things like that, you can't be responsible for everything they do if they are outside. I don't even know what Jack gets up to when he goes out and about, and maybe there's a string of corpses that I'm unaware of.
Yeah, and you know, poor cats get knocked down on the roads and things. There's issues around making sure that cats are microchipped and you can identify them when they're knocked down. So you know, that's another issue of debate at the moment for local authorities and responsibilities there as well. I think it's striking a sensible balance, you know, between looking after the needs of the cat, looking at the welfare of the cat, and, you know, some broader concerns in society. But I know there was a peer last year, I think a Conservative peer, who came out with a view that all cats should, you know, be muzzled basically and walked on a lead, and you know, that was the way to deal with the problem. Well, it might be, but that's just not going to happen, is it? Practically, you're not going to be able to force every cat owner to start putting a little harness on their cat and muzzle it and walk it down the street every day. You know, the fact of the matter is we have millions of cats, and the same in France, and they are going to wander around. But you are going to have these types of disputes, and obviously the courts are going to get involved. I wouldn't be surprised if we might not see something similar at some point in Britain, and that's going to spark another big debate, of course, in this area.
Dominic, it's a really interesting one as well from the dog's perspective, because you wouldn't expect people to go out with dogs, and there are obviously a lot of people who really criticise the fact that people sometimes don't put dogs on leads and let them roam. And you know, if you're going on a long walk or something and you let the dog off the lead for a while, and a lot of people say you should never do that. But I have seen people with cats on leads, and that just feels weird.
Yeah, and there was some controversy recently with someone with cats on the tube, you know, and again, you know, a lot of stress, you know, having a cat in that type of environment, and they put that video on YouTube and things, and a lot of people were criticising that. To be fair, you know, I've mentioned that, you know, you have a potential negative impacts of cats on the environment. But actually, in some ways, dogs are even worse, because, you know, dogs out of control cause huge problems to livestock, huge problems to wildlife. You know, we were involved as a campaign. I was involved in an attack on a seal in London some years ago, in the Richmond area, Teddington area, that was killed by a dog, which caused a lot of media controversy at the time, and we get swans and other things being attacked. So I think a lot of this, Peter, is about responsible ownership. So you don't fall out with your neighbours. You think about what's best for the animal that you're taking care of, and you try and think about when you're letting it out, when you're bringing it back in. And if you have a dog, you don't, you know, let it just run wild, because that's extremely dangerous to people and animals.
Dominic, thanks for your thoughts on all of that. That's Dominic Dyer there, the Animal Welfare Campaigner and Chairman of Nature 2030. Debbie has been in touch, says, morning Cardi P, a cat with an asbo. I've heard it all now. I understand neighbours don't like cats using their garden as a litter box, but if mine were doing that, I'd buy them cat pellets to stop them. Great show, says Debs. Bring on Trump getting the BBC. Someone needs to, says Deb as well. And on that note, Joan in Sunderland has given me a ring. Joan, good to talk to you again. What would you like to say about the BBC?
Well, it's sad that the BBC is in the position it is now, because at one time it used to be excellent. People depended on it for the truth. But unfortunately, it doesn't tell the truth anymore. It's so biased, it's absolutely pathetic.
Do you not trust anything the BBC tells you when you switch on the news, Joan?
Well, I don't have it on very long because, as I said, it's so biased, especially the one about Israel and Gaza. I cringe when I listen to that.
There's one particular programme I sometimes listen to in the BBC, and I see how far I can get into it without switching it off because of its bias, and the average is about 4 or 5 minutes. It's a programme in Radio 4, and I try to give it a chance most days, and it just, especially when it comes to the Middle East, I really can't listen to it, Joan, and I think a lot of people feel that way. Do you think you would stop paying your licence fee, or what do you think you might do, Joan?
Well, I get mine free because I'm partially sighted and I'm 85.
Okay.
But if I had to pay for it, the answer is no.
Mm-hmm.
But I used to like watching Question Time. And when they got the new presenter, she's the one who does Antique Roadshow.
Fiona Bruce, yeah.
Yes,
yeah.
It's just so biased. I'll tell you how long it is since I watched it. I stopped when Barry Gardner was the Shadow Health Centre.
Well, that was a while ago.
Health Minister, because I used to nickname it the Barry Gardner Show.
He was certainly on a lot, wasn't he?
He's like a broken record, and it hasn't improved since. But I switch it on, I think I'm going to give it a chance. And I just can't stand it. It's just false, the whole lot.
Okay.
And I'm pleased President Trump is doing what he's doing. And hopefully they might wake up, but I doubt it. And what should have happened, those two at the top should not have been allowed to resign. I think they should have been sacked. And they should lose all their pensions and whatever, because I had enough with Bob Dylan. Bob Dylan,
yeah, indeed. Still
very rubbish.
Yeah, well, at least they've interviewed him now, so there we are. But listen, thank you, Joan. Appreciate that. That's Joan in Sunderland there. And thank you to producer Chris, who points out that it was Viscount Monkton who made the controversial statement in the House of Lords that all cats should be muzzled. So, yeah, thank you to Chris for that. Lots more to come. Lots of people want to get in on the BBC. I will take as many calls, text, tweets and voice notes as I can. Just a reminder that tomorrow, Mike Tapp, the Immigration Minister, is going to be on, as is Chris Philp, who is the Shadow Home Secretary. Both of them are going to be joining me. Both Labour and the Conservatives and Reform UK are going to be on tomorrow as well. Sunday, lots of politics to go through, especially as we look to the budget and continue the debate on the BBC that we're going to continue in just a minute on this show. Also, you may well ask me, who do you think you are? And that answer will come up at a little bit later in the programme, because we'll have a DNA reveal. I've had my DNA checked. Jeremy Kyle is not involved, I hasten to add, but I will be told my heritage, which will be an interesting aspect of that programme tomorrow. Loads to discuss today between now and 1 o'clock. Stay with us. One final break, and then we'll take all your calls, text, tweets and voice notes. Stay with us right through to 1 o'clock.
In terms of your question around taxes, there are no additional tax rises needed beyond the ones that I've set out.
Don't need to increase taxes.
I'm not coming back with more borrowing or more taxes. I will not increase your national insurance. I will not increase your VAT, and I will not increase your income tax.
We don't need to come back for more. We've done that now. We've wiped the slate clean.
The economic circumstances have declined, deteriorated since a year ago. We are having to look at taxes and spending.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Thank you so much to everybody who's been in touch. Let's go to a couple of voice notes now. Lynn has been in touch.
Good morning, Peter. I really wish people would stop wondering what Rachel Reeves is up to. They keep saying she's incompetent. No, she isn't, in my view. She's following her own agenda and the agenda of this government, which is actually the same as Agenda 2030. Read it and let me know if there's anything in that this government are not working towards. Thank you. This is Lynn from Staffordshire.
Thank you, Lynn. And let's hear from Rob.
Peter, regarding the BBC and Trump and then doctoring his speech, I'm all for President Trump going after the BBC because, Pete, these people think they're untouchable, they think they're elites, they think they're better than us. Even the Director General come out there and says, oh, we're the best of society. The best of society. Pete, they need to be took down a peg or two. And if the President is going to do it, then he's got my full backing, 100%. They need taking down, mate, because what's to stop him doing it again and again and again? And another thing, Trump might be the first, right? We don't know if there's many more, do we? What speeches have they doctored in the past? In the future, they need taking down, mate. Bye-bye.
Rob, thank you. Let's hear from Chris.
Morning, Peter. Great show. Chris here. Yeah, I've had this conversation with a few people recently. I keep seeing people wanting to close the BBC down. I think that's just what the left want. And like I said, anything with the word British in the title, they're happy to see go. It needs to be scaled down. I believe there's about 20,000 people work there. Scale it down to about 5,000. Start again. Get rid of all the left-wing, the political side of it, and just have a neutral, decent TV channel like it used to be.
Thank you, Chris. Final voice note today from Diane.
Hi, Peter. Diane Coventry. Talk about Trump and talk about BBC. There's been not a lot being mentioned about the two people that have resigned. If they've been receiving a payout, shouldn't that be penalised? Thanks.
Yeah, that's a very good point. And there was speculation that they're actually coming to the end of their contract, so maybe resigning wasn't such a big deal. Diane, we will find out more about that, I'm sure, as time goes on. Nathan in Basingstoke has been in touch and says it goes beyond the impartiality with the BBC for me. The quality of dramas and other things that are just dropping like mad. My favourite show, Doctor Who, has been utilised as a vessel for agendas and left ideologies rather than just focusing on a good story, telling it like it used to. It used to be a British staple, a British institution. Now it's just a laughingstock. Sad times. Let's go to a couple of calls. Let's speak to AJ in Essex, presumably not a former member of the Backstreet Boys. AJ, you're very welcome to the programme.
No, definitely not a Backstreet Boy, Cardiff. Great show as usual, mate. Yeah, I hope the Don sues the BBC and they collapse. And if it does win, I think people
will we not be poorer as a nation, AJ, if we didn't have the BBC?
I think we'll be richer.
Okay.
Don't you?
Well, I mean, listen, I think there should be some sort of public service broadcaster. I'm not sure what it should be or what it should look like. Certainly not what the BBC looks like at the moment. Is there nothing on the BBC, AJ, that you like?
No, if I want my news, I go GB or I go Talk News.
Yeah.
And I don't watch anything on the BBC. There's nothing. I stopped watching Match of the Day for obvious reasons, even though it's not doing it anymore. But it's just left-wing rhetoric. I might as well go to just Cuba. Might as well go to Cuba and watch TV. Okay.
AJ, thanks very much. We're just struggling slightly on the line, but I think you made your point there. Matthew in Cheshire is on the line. Matthew, thanks for ringing 0344 499 1000. What would you like to say?
I'd love to be a fly on the wall when Trump makes that phone call to Starmer over the BBC. He's going to tear him a new one. He's going to absolutely belittle him. All this that they're friends. Trump doesn't forget he knows that Starmer was bidding his little mates against him when Biden in the election. He can't stand him. He likes Britain, he likes the King and the Queen and all that, but he doesn't like Starmer. You know, if you think about it, the news of the world went under because of the telephone scandal. It was that big. You know, this is just the tip of the iceberg now. It could really bring the BBC down. And the government, especially if it's all very left-wing and orientated. It's a massive can of worms that could be opened here, couldn't it?
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right, and it'll be very interesting to see what happens now. Thanks for your call, Matthew. I appreciate that. Let's go to Mark now. No sign of Luke and John, but from Matthew to Mark in Sussex. Mark, you're very welcome to the programme. What would you like to say?
Hi, I've got a new word for you. It's fund jacking. I haven't seen it. I sort of invented it myself.
It's what? Sorry, give us the number. The word.
Fund jacking. FUND. Fund jacking.
Okay.
So they've taken the funds from the licence fee, the money, and they've used that to promote left-wing activities. Basically, I mean that's pretty clear. No one ever mentions costs and what these things cost. That's where the money's come from. So I remember driving on a Wednesday, if you like Trump or not, it doesn't really matter, but I remember driving down to a meeting on a Wednesday evening when Trump had got elected, and there were two BBC presenters talking about it on the radio, and they were almost in tears. Now, this is in national radio. They should be there to represent or repeat the news and not offer personal opinions from them. It's crept in, but obviously that's not been picked up, and their bosses were happy with it. So the left-wing ideology in the BBC they're infested. It's indoctrinated right across the system, and unfortunately, I don't think it would be possible to stop this. You'd have to. It's like the old utility company, water board, electric and gas. The same people would be taken back on again. You'd really have to start from scratch, and say, well, here we are, 2025, and start from scratch. Some of the stuff on the BBC is good. Some of the stuff on Radio 4 I like. Some of the intelligence stuff. So it's a shame, but unfortunately, it's let itself down so much since I was a child and loved the BBC that I think it's all gone too far now.
Mark, thanks for your thoughts. Mark in Sussex there. Another person's been in touch saying the BBC is just another example of wherever the left infiltrate, it turns to rubbish. You only have to look at the police, the NHS, education, the Home Office, and now this government. The left have trashed it all with their unrealistic ideology. And speaking of the Home Office, we'll be speaking to the Home Office Minister, Mike Tapp, tomorrow on the programme, and also the Shadow Home Secretary, Chris Philp. This is about a big new immigration plan to make us more like Denmark. On cats as well, a couple of people have been in touch. Another person says it's important to keep a cat's microchip up to date. I forgot to do so with my late brother's cat, and when she went missing, someone else claimed her. Goodness me, that's dreadful. Leslie says, can you imagine if dogs were allowed to poop in gardens? Yet cats can with impunity. Yes, it is important to update your microchip. When I moved house, I made sure I updated Jack's microchip, and it was with a company called Pet Track, and I remember tweeting them saying, when you go into work, do you hum Pet Track, Pet Track, Pet Track to where you once belonged? Thank you to the top team behind the glass who've made the show today. Chris Jacobs has been the producer. Dave Rhodes, Tech Up Dave, has been the technical operator, as the name would suggest. He's taking a day off tomorrow, and I'm very annoyed about that. Shalape Alitse has been the assistant producer. Davis Fang and Chris Jones, the visual producers. Amin Asadi, the video editor, and Dean Spencer has been the weekend editor. So thank you to all of them for everything they have done. Thank you to all of you as well. There have been loads of people getting in touch, so I really appreciate it. I'm here tomorrow between 10 and 1. As I say, bumper political show. We'll have Reform UK on, we'll have the Conservatives and Labour as well. Also at 12:30, this is postponed from a couple of weeks ago because there's a big breaking news story, do you remember, about the stabbing on the train. So we were going to do it a couple of weeks ago, but we're now going to do it